And welcome, guys, to the ArchieLuxury live stream. This is the Friday night edition for our American friends there. And today I got a very special guest from Perpetual Time. I'll let him introduce himself. Your name is?
My name is Alexandros Foti. You can call me Alex. And basically, I run Perpetual Time, which is my own business in restoring all types of watches, usually like Rolex, Cartier, Omega, all those sort of brands, Tag, Hublot. Based in Liverpool. I'm also WATCHMAKER certified, also fellow of the BHI. I also sit on the board of the British Watch and Clockmakers Guild as well. And today I'll be answering, hopefully, some very interesting questions from all your subscribers.
Interesting questions. That's right, guys. Super chat now to ask the watchmaker a question. That is exactly right there.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. The big issue in the industry, I got a good friend in Australia, Nick Hacko. He's a watchmaker, and he's actually fairly vocal in this. Right to repair. And what basically the problem is that many of these big houses, watchmaking companies, you know, the big names, Rolex, even smaller names and sort of less prestigious, will not supply parts to independent watchmakers. And it's a bit like if you bought a Mercedes-Benz and you can only do oil or filters outside of Mercedes. You can't get any parts for the car whatsoever. Do you see this as a problem, Alex?
Huge problem. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it is one of the biggest problems for all watchmakers. And I would say it's also the same problem for accredited watchmakers, because if you can imagine, Archie, you know, you spend all the money to buy all the tooling to be accredited with a particular company, and then you've got to do all the courses, and then you've got to be on different levels. There's nothing stopping them from taking that level away or deciding to stop supplying your parts. I can understand and appreciate why they're doing it, because they don't want certain watchmakers who may have not had the experience to be working on their watches. But trying to tell this to the owner of the watch, they don't want to hear that. They just want somebody that's competent to basically be able to work on their watch. And when you tell them this, you have to explain it to them, because why would they know this? So they just want their watch running and with a correct warranty. But to explain it to them, it is very frustrating for them. And I totally respect
Just
that.
very quickly, quick super chat there. Plastic. No more cancel culture community, babies. Okie dokie. That's from our Plastic. And Jay Wright, $2. Is Japanese horology as good as Swiss? Thanks. Oh, that's a nasty one. What do you think?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask, because I don't really work on many Japanese movements. However, they are very, very reliable, and they are pretty inviting, so to speak, when you actually service them. You know, everything is nice, and you know, parts are pretty easy to fit, etc. But I must admit, I'm probably not the best person to ask with Japanese movements, because I don't really work on them. Do I choose not to work on them? Yes, I do, because I'm fortunate enough to be able to get clients that have Swiss watches that I'm experienced with and comfortable with. So that question is a difficult one. However, Grand Seiko, the Grand Seiko is a phenomenal piece. I will say that.
I suppose the problem is too, I have heard from other watchmakers, Grand Seiko won't let parts out for Grand Seikos. They'll let parts out for their cheaper lines, but the more expensive lines, they're very protective.
Yeah, no, Archie, you're right, because nearly all companies are doing it now, like Gucci and, you know, Seiko.
Yes.
Seiko for me is a bit of a nightmare, because on one of my work experiences, when I was doing the WASTEP course, I was sent to Seiko and I did 600 movement exchanges.
I see.
So I still have nightmares on those weeks at Seiko. However, it taught me a lot. It taught me a huge amount. It gave me a huge amount of experience.
Here's Ken Fresno, $5. Sir, have you ever had to resort to searching on Google to answer a customer's watch question?
um, Maybe if I needed to find a lift angle on a movement for its correct timing, um, maybe when somebody's brought in a Japanese watch and I have to check on YouTube how to set it. Yeah, I will. I will. Listen, us watchmakers don't know everything. We learn every day, every single day. Any watchmaker that says he knows everything, no, I don't respect that.
Tell me this. What's the what are your favorite brands to work on? What brands do you enjoy the most?
Rolex, and Rolex. No, seriously, it's Rolex I enjoy working on because the 3135 movement is one of my favorites. It's just beautiful to work on. Finding errors is pretty easy, should I say. 28 ETA 2824 is a tank of a movement.
Workhorse movement,
absolute workhorse. Shouldn't be looked down on. Should only be looked down on when companies are dressing it up to look like something else and not admitting it's a 2824. That I don't respect. 2892, 7750. What else is there?
You like 7750? That's a big workhorse.
Yeah, it's brilliant. The only thing is that when you're sleeping at night and you may be wearing your watch, you hear that damn rotor spinning because it's one directional.
It does that.
It winds one way.
Oh, unidirectional.
It winds one way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just when it winds one way, the way it doesn't wind is it's spinning like crazy, which is a problem that Rolex are having now on their newer movements, isn't it? It's quite noisy.
I've got that's the new 41 with the 72 power reserve there, and it's a bit noisy too. It's a bit noisy. It's a noisy, but you know, I don't think it's as noisy as the 7750. And
no, that's just so noisy.
The funny thing is, you know, years ago I had a PAM 24, which was a submersible. It's a PAM submersible. And they put in a 7750 movement without the chronograph. They took off the chronograph feature, and I'm thinking, why would you do that? Why would you use a base 7750 without the whole point of the 7750 is to have that beautiful chronograph?
Well, I had this discussion before, and I believe it's because there's no other movement that's that size. Think about it. Because let's say if they had to go down the road and making an in-house at that time, that would have been extremely expensive. They've got the R&D. They're probably going to get callbacks. And let's be honest, Panerai's reputation in the service department and also spotting fakes, dare I say it, is not fantastic. No. It's very difficult now to spot. Even Panerai apparently no longer wish to even recognize a fake to a genuine. They can no longer tell. That's the problem we're having.
Timber Tramp, $5. New Omega Seamaster Chrono, New Omega Seamaster Chrono, 300. I'd like the case and bracelet to be blasted, having an entire satin finish. What would that cost? US dollars. Oh, I don't know if you'd actually do that. Would you actually do that if someone said, I don't like the finish, I want it to be satin? Oh, I'd probably step back. I don't know about you.
I'd make him sign an email of consent and I would do it if he's happy, because I think that's the best way, because I've never done one on that watch before. So I have to make him sign an email of consent to say the outcome is your responsibility, so to speak. So probably about 175 sterling to do that.
Okie dokie. So that was how much, sorry?
About 175 sterling.
135.
175.
175 Great British pounds. There you go. Just use XE to convert that to whatever currency you're in. The Timepiece Fund, $2. Purists argue as they must, but Grand Seiko evokes emotion. Purists argue as they must, but Grand Seiko evokes emotion.
I don't understand that.
I don't
Well, I
understand.
do.
Can I tell you a quick Grand Seiko story about loyalty? Because the Japanese are really big on loyalty.
Mhm.
Friend of mine was a Grand Seiko agent. He built up. He was selling Grand Seiko when no one really wanted Grand Seiko. He sold them for years. He had a shop. He's still got a shop. He's actually he sells. He's a grey market dealer. I'm not going to name him or shame him, but he's a
Yeah.
grey market dealer, and he also had a few agencies. Like he had the lesser agencies, like Longines, and
No, okay.
he had Grand Seiko. That was one of them. Okay, and he also had Seiko. He still has Seiko, but the Grand Seiko that was kind of his more prestigious, new watches because he sells Rolexes and that pre-owned because he's not a Rolex agent. Anyhow, after many years of being a loyal Grand Seiko dealer, they sent him a text message saying, "We've decided to open our own boutique. Your contract will end on such and such a date. Goodbye." That's loyalty from Grand Seiko. Absolutely. Like these big names, they say the customers aren't loyal, but I tell you what, I think some of these these big companies can be extremely unloyal.
Yeah, I mean, look, I
And
mean, if you can I mention
a
something about?
lousy email. That's how they broke off many years of business. A lousy email. Okay, got a next super chat. They're coming in fast. Look at this. We've certainly got them coming in fast. We've got Buddha Hotep, $5. What is the proper maintenance schedule if your Rolex watch comes in close proximity to a treacherous snake? Yaso Migo
Yasu
Zito.
Migali.
Yes.
He's Greek, yeah. Yasu Migali.
I think he's having a joke there. And Yankee Doodle, $2. I'm hearing Watch Talk. Am I on the wrong channel? This is a new Friday. This is a new segment. I thought, look, I'll be completely honest with you. I was going to run a show called Disrespect. The new crew, he wanted permission to do his own streams and do this, and I just got sick of the whole thing. I needed a break from these guys because they're so disloyal. And I got my good friend Alex from Perpetual Time. I said, let's do a show together, me, you, talk. He's a watchmaker. Let's get this up a notch. And that's exactly why I decided to bring this man on here. We're just going to see how it goes. And obviously, if you're in the UK, Perpetual Time with Alex. $5. I daily use a Breguet Marine 5817, but the loom sucks. Can new, stronger loom be applied by a watchmaker?
No, don't do it. Listen, you can, but it just will never look right. And also, once you start playing with the dial, it's
You've wrecked the dial. You've wrecked
Yeah.
the dial. And
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine. He look, he's still a friend, but I almost disowned him. He had a nipple dial, two-tone sub. It was actually a black dial, two-tone, a 16613. So two-tone 90s Submariner with the nip. Actually, I think it might have been 80s. It was 80. Sorry, it was a 16603. It was the steel version would have been the 16800.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an 80s, mid 80s. It was that transitional period from 1680 to the Sapphire. It had the nip because that had the nipple dial, and he said he wants to put loom on them, and I begged him, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I said, don't do that. You're going to wreck it. It was anyhow. You know what? These people. They know best. He did it. And then years later, he comes back to me and says, how do I take the loom off?
Yeah.
And I said, I think you've kind of wrecked the dial. Loom is like araldite. You understand? It's kind of once it goes on, it doesn't really come off. There's not instant, you know what I mean? It's kind of...
Yeah. I mean, look, you don't want anything to go near a dial, no matter what it is. Moisture, water, anything. You don't want it to be exposed to anything. Obviously, it will be exposed to sunlight or maybe even some moisture if you're not taking care of the seals, then the patina, etc. But as soon as somebody gets an expensive or sentimental watch and decides to loom the dial, this is something that I have to be very careful with my customers and be diplomatic and say, sir, madam, don't do it. And I give them the reasons. I don't, no matter how much money they give me, I don't do it.
And he said to me, I'm never going to sell it. It's just for me. Doesn't matter. He gave me, and you know what? He ended up selling it. Okay. He ended up selling it and he butchered it. He had butchered it. And I kind of, I was really upset because this was a beautiful watch. And anyhow, look, don't get me started. But
no, but before you go, well, sorry, not before you go.
Yeah.
So before you, all for what? Just to see the time at night? It's ridiculous. What?
Yes.
All for that, for nothing. It's ridiculous.
100% right there. MJT, $3. Thanks, Arch. Another $1 for the GS email story. Thank you. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's nice.
He likes, I keep telling that story there. Yes. It's, I don't know what to say. It's nasty. Jay Wright, £2. What's the most rugged movement in an in-house piece?
Rugged as in maintenance services or taking a good knock-in? God, what could it be? Well, it has to be the ETA range. So ETA, so from the worst, it will be the ETA 2000 that you find in those really small cars.
I think you said, what's the most rugged in an in-house piece? Like, so that'd be an
in-house. Sorry,
movement.
sorry, my mistake.
Yeah.
In-house.
Probably the Rolexes.
Yeah, Rolexes. Yeah, definitely, in my opinion. Yeah.
And that's interesting because, you know, Rolex had a separate company, AIGNA, didn't they? AIGNA? AIG. They used to own, they were kind of, Rolex gave them exclusive. They ended up buying them in the early 2000s. Right. That's basically all that matters there. We got the next one is Instagram. The Real Cars and Chrono, $5. Enjoying this stream. In your experience, which complications would you say are most challenging to repair? Good question.
Oh my God. Oh, definitely. It would have to be the Patek Philippe perpetual calendars and Moore Lang and Son. You know, the certain complications, the grand dates, the moon phase. No, and I'll be honest with you, it's not something I work on because A, I can't get the parts. B, I don't have the experience. You have to know your limits in watchmaking because the last thing you want is a watch to come in and use that watch as a guinea pig. That's wrong. I personally think that's wrong. I'm speaking of my own experience. I can't speak for others, but for me, no, I'd just rather excel in what I know. And then if I happen to go on a training course or get access to parts and training, then that's perfect. But to start getting in grand complications, no. I always say send back to manufacturer or I refer you to this person.
I got to tell you too, and don't ever be afraid of that. I got a guy is a fan of the channel. He's a nice guy. I went and saw him. That's Michael Presser from Precision Time in Melbourne. He's actually the Australian Patek service guy.
Oh, wow.
And he only does the simple ones in-house there. Anything more complicated, like someone sent in a friend of mine had a Nautilus 5726. It needed to be serviced and it needed a little bit of laser welding on the bezel. That was sent to Switzerland. So even for Patek, they say, no. Our agents only do the simple ones. Anything more complicated has to go back to Geneva.
Just like Hublot and all the other brands as well. Yeah, definitely.
It's, yes, exactly. Timepiece Fund, $2. Enforce non-compete terms before allowing new crew. I got to tell you, that's for me. Look, it's just disappointing. I got to be honest with you. I've been doing this tubes for years, and I had one sticky character who came to me and said, "Hey, I want to come on." I've been begging him to come on for years. No. He's suddenly seen all the money. He wants to come on, and I'm thinking, it's just people want to use me to build their profile, and then they stream. It's I had enough. I have had enough. And I got to be honest with you, it's a very, very tough business there. Okay, next one. Thomas Burdett, £4.50. Alex, great to
Thomas.
see you. What are the current Breguet movements like to work on? Are the older movements better to work with?
Oh, the vintage Breguets? No.
Yes. No. No.
Look, there's some pretty.
Is there many Breguets in the field there?
No, look, I hardly ever see any Breguets. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I mean, maybe they don't choose me to work on them, or the people that own them decide to take them to Breguet, which is part of the Swatch Group, isn't it, Breguet?
Yes, Breguet now is part of Swatch Group, yes.
Yeah. Breguet's a bit of a funny one. I love Breguet, but I've not had a huge amount of experience on their movement. So that, once again, I mean, what can I say? If you're going to buy a Breguet, just be very careful which one you buy, because the service costs are pretty high. Always.
I got to tell you a Breguet story. I had a Breguet Type 20, which is kind of their bread and butter entry kind of. It's not a column wheel chronograph. It's a cams chronograph, which Breguet, their more expensive ones are all, column wheel.
It's a Frederick Piguet movement, that.
Yeah. Lemania, they call it, but it's, yeah.
Is it? I think the Frederick Piguet movements are movements I personally would not buy into if I was buying a watch. I would avoid.
The Frederick Piguet, that's also AP uses a lot of those.
Yeah, but I don't. From an experience, I don't rate them. I just
no. Anyhow, I got this chronograph serviced, and it had a problem where the minute timer would independently just flick around. And the watchmaker said to me, "It needs a part. I can't get the part."
Yeah.
And I ended up having to send the damn thing to Breguet, and they wouldn't just do the part, even though it's been repaired. They said, "No, full service, sir. Needs a full service." And that's kind of a problem with that. But lovely watch. Tim S, $2. What are the most common movement issues you see? Good question.
I do see a lot of screws being snapped and going in the balance, reverser wheels failing, rotor axles on the 3135 snapping, the dreaded Breitling Navitime. I don't say the dreaded is a bad watch, but the Navitimer Breitling, the dial dial feet is snapped, sub dial hand
snap.
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Someone's dropped it, or sometimes. If you do a bit of an investigation where you ask them, how did you find the watch? They say, it was just like that. And I'll say, have you got children? And they'll say, yes. And I'll say, have you got a tiled floor? And they go, yes. I said, well, I'm not being disrespectful to your children, but there's a chance that they drop the thing and put it back on. So it happens, those things happen, because the Breitling Navitimer, which has a 7750 movement in it, I see so many with damaged dials.
I see.
And then what happens is when the dial feet snap, it turns and then it cuts one of the pivots, and the hand then obviously cuts as well, as in the hand that's pressed onto the pivot, and then it's like all over the dial. It's really common to see that. What else? Vintage watches where the setting lever is snapped. Cartiers with water ingress.
Oh my God. I hate that. I had a friend of my wife, right? We got married in 2005, and she wanted to buy a Cartier Tank Francais. And I said to my wife, tell her to get a Rolex Oyster Perpetual, because it's the only really true waterproof watch. Well, I said nothing is waterproof. They're all resistant. Yes. And sure enough, 15 years later, she took it in for a Cartier to do a battery, because the Tank Francais is normally quartz. Water damage. Because it doesn't have a screw-in crown.
No.
No.
And it's this, yeah.
I told you so. Anyhow, she just bought a Boulogne blue. I saw her recently. She's got a Boulogne blue. Another 15 years, probably. Who knows? Ron, Sovron, $2. How often to service a Rolex with 8 in rotation? Good question.
Depends on the years of them, but I would say 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 to 6 years, pushing it. If it's watches of 1990 or 1990 plus, or even 80 plus. Obviously, 80s being classed as vintage and early 90s being classed as vintage as well. 3 to 4 years every service, I would say.
The Timepiece Fund, $2. For your information, non-compete terms protect both. Back to watches. Thank you so much there. And we've got newbie watch guy, £2. Omega 861 chrono hand resets to 5 secs. Big fix?
Well, it could depend on a lot of things. It would definitely need to be serviced to rectify that. I wouldn't be able to just rectify that issue.
Do you like people who say, I just want the small thing fixed. Don't worry about servicing. I just want you to fix
just get it going, Alex.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. You're an expert. It won't take you long.
I'll leave you. I'll give it to you for one day, and I'll come back the next day. Okay. No. No.
There we go. Here we go. Instagram, the real cars in chrono, $5. Can we settle debate on whether watch winders are okay? Yes or no? I don't use them as I like to interact with my pieces. Yes, watch winders. What's your opinion?
Well, I used to give them off with a service, a luxury watch winder 3-4 years ago, but I don't touch them now because I feel as though unless you're like Floyd Mayweather, where you have like 50 watches and you genuinely want them all on time, what is the point of having them all on time? Because you have to have them on a certain setting, and even if you do, you're still putting wear onto the watch because it's moving, the mainspring is slipping as well constantly. It's unnecessary wear. So unless you really have a large amount and you generally want to wear each one of every day or so, then that makes sense. But I don't really rate them. I don't see them necessary.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed, my friend there. It's interesting. Here we go. We've got another super chat here. Xme Wang, $3. Does 12-year-old Datejust need service if no issues? Good question.
Well, if you're telling me that watch is still doing -4 + 6 seconds a day, chronometer rated, of course, that rotor axle is going to be the size of what? No, it has to be serviced. No, don't leave it any longer, please. Don't.
But do you hear that famous story? Terry Stern, Philippe Stern apparently has got a 3940 perpetual calendar chronograph. He's never serviced it. He just wears it. You know, that's the perpetual 3940. It uses the 240 movement, the micro rotor 240 movement. He said, no, legend has it that he hasn't serviced it. I don't know. You tell me.
Wow. How old would it be now?
Oh, well, they came out, the 3940s came out in the early 80s.
No. I just can't see that as possible. Oh, I can't imagine running your car every day for 365 days a year. You're telling me it's still gonna run properly? It just people don't think like that though.
No. Ken Fresno, $5. Sir, who is the most informative and original watch YouTuber?
Are you asking me this?
Yes.
It has to be you, doesn't it? Who else is it going to be?
Hey, that's exactly it. And we got blue shirt Buddha in the house. Get well, blue shirt there. And we got the Bear Clooney's there in the house. And ABC. ABC, he's actually my type of guy. He's the English guy. And his dad was actually was in the watch. He was a watchmaker himself, so I've got a lot of respect for ABC. ABC, £5. Hey, Arch, this guy is pure class. How did you find him? Alex, how many weeks, months backlog do you have? Need some pieces serviced. That's from ABC. He's a great guy, ABC.
Oh, thank you, ABC. Thanks for the kind words. Thank you for the £5.
Actually, ABC is such a good guy. ABC, I'm going to send you a link. See if you can come on. You can come on and talk to us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He's actually lovely. ABC's a lovely man. I really love him. I just sent you the link privately in WhatsApp. See if you can jump on, ABC. So what's your backlog like?
Terrible. No, I'm just joking.
Yes, 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 yes.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, my backlog is big. I'm not going to lie. You know, it's
Oh well, you're a good watchmaker. You're going to have a backlog, aren't you?
yeah, some work I'm quoting 12 weeks, some is
Okay.
15, 20 weeks
But
on.
that doesn't matter. You can still log in. You can book it in advance. This is the whole point. You know, good things aren't quick. You know, that's the whole thing there.
But Archie, don't you think it's a shame that companies don't actually show how much there is to service a watch? Don't you think?
Look, I got to be honest with you. I thought Paddock did a great service. They had a video on servicing a Paddock, which happens to be one of the ones I got, the 5035. They showed you, they pull it apart, they see this, they check it in, they do this. I thought that was actually a pretty good video. Um, I think the problem is, a lot of people, they think you just put few little drops of oil and off you go. They don't understand. You've got to disassemble the
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah.
They don't understand what's involved there. But I've they just want a quick service to. Often people don't take it for a service until something's broken.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing, though. It's not always a good
No,
way.
no, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. The timepiece fund $2. Truth Rolex bought in '03 runs fine, never serviced.
Well, once again, what's runs fine though? Is it -4 plus 6 seconds a day? Is its power reserve
No, what
correct?
he's saying is
Is it,
when he chooses to wear this watch, he sets it, winds it, gives it a shake, and it runs for a day or two like he wants to before he loses interest in this horological trollop and goes on to the next one.
right. The other thing is when you've not worn your watch, obviously it naturally stops. The best thing to always do is unwind the crown and then wind it 15, 20 winds. You can wind it 100 times. You're not going to damage it. And then set it to time and date. Never just shake it like this and then set it to time and date. It's no good. You've got to put power in it. That's really
Speaking
important.
of pure class, hello ABC, how are you?
Oh wow, I'm really privileged.
Oh,
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm very selective who comes on today. I was going to make a show called Disrespect because Dis wants to do his own streaming and do this, and I had some other cowboy who was wanting to do a stream. He just wants to use me to get publicity for his own streaming, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to bring the big guns out today. I'm going to get a proper watchmaker. It's £75 an hour I'm paying for him. So keep those super chats going. And I thought ABC, you're a great ABC's dad was your dad was a watchmaker, wasn't he?
He could do some bits of rudimentary watchmaking, but there was a guy in London he used to use for intricate stuff. A guy called Mr. Chang or Chan from
What, is he
Portobello.
still around now? Is he still around
I'm
now?
not sure. I don't know whether that's TikTok man or of that from that sort of connection, but yeah, he could do things like change a dial, change a date wheel and things like that.
Just
But he
very
was more
quickly,
that
Mike Hammer.
external.
Mike Hammer, $5. On a manual wind, a new speedy, how many winds per day? And doesn't matter if you don't wind at same time each day. He's talking about a manual wind watch.
Look, the thing about manual wind is you should stop winding it as soon as you feel that resistance and that kickback of the crown. Because if you hold on to the crown, which a lot of people do, it causes knocking of the banking on the balance. So the balance is doing like 270. You're now making it do like 350 or 340. And then it starts hitting itself on its back. And then it makes the watch totally erratic. So just wind the watch, and then when you feel that resistance, then just lay off it. I hope that makes sense.
Should you wind it the same time every day?
No. Just no.
Doesn't make a difference. I mean, you can if you want to. I suppose you're saying it doesn't really.
No, it's preference, isn't it?
Preference. Yes. Completely true. We've got Jimmy here. $5 Canadian. Great show, big boy. Very, very, very interesting. Yes, indeed. I've got to say, ABC, you've come back into the Rolex fold. You've got a couple Rolexes there.
I do. They're not on my wrist though, but I've decided to do a bit of bastardizing and just put them on Everest straps, just to have a bit of fun with them.
Yes. Yes.
That's the
Beautiful. They're
GMT.
looking beautiful. Look at that there. I think a strap is a great way to try something new there. I got to tell you what annoys me is Rolex they've with their new no holes case, they've really moved the bracelets. The bracelets aren't interchangeable like before,
No.
and they try and make it. They don't want you to put straps or NATOs on, which it's kind of sad. Kind of sad. We've got a super chat here from the real Cars and Chrono, $5. Really like your story. Sorry if covered early, but how did you get started in watches? What's your daily wearer? Thank you.
What's my daily wearer? Is that for me?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, so I wear an IWC Big Pilots 2013, which is just here. Oh, there we go.
I've got my GST on.
Wow.
Oh, that's got the 7750. Is that the titanium one?
It is, yeah.
It's really light, isn't it? Because one's came in for a service. It's in my safe now, but one came in for a service, and they need to be like bead sandblasted. But once they're done, they look nice. But it's a 7750, but it's still a cracky movement. Yeah, I wear an IWC Big Pilots watch. I made my own watch as well.
Oh wow! You made your own, like a George Daniels.
No, not to that extent. No.
Yeah, but he started. He wanted to make his own watch. That was his first endeavor.
Yeah, George
He
Daniels.
did it in silver.
He was a funny guy, though. He wasn't the most social of people.
Did you meet him?
No, I met Roger Smith, who's just an opposite of him, in my opinion. Who's his protege, wasn't it? But George Daniels, I don't know if he came to our WASTEP school, but he was a very, very, he wasn't the most easiest person to work with. He was quite difficult. But yeah, I wear this IWC Big Pilots. I've had it. When did I get COVID? I got COVID, 4 or 5 weeks ago? I bought it about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I think I bought it from Watchfinder. I think I paid late sixes for it. Beautiful watch.
Just very quickly, Claude C, $5. Alex, what do you think of more watch companies moving into in-house movements? Are these movements really superior to third-party or just marketing BS?
Okay, well, I think I might have to be careful with what I say here, but there's one particular company that are losing their interest from their authorized dealers because their service center is becoming extremely difficult with parts, and their in-house movements are just really bad. They're really bad. They begin with C. So they've now nearly all their range is their own in-house. But the problem with in-house movements is how much R&D has been done. Because I guarantee there's going to be comebacks, such as on this IWC Big Pilots, there was comebacks. That's the other problem. How much is it to service? If they're not willing to provide the parts, then that means you're cornered who you can use. That means you're going to have stuff done to it that you don't even want, and you're going to be paying a high price. So when people say, "Oh, this watch has an in-house movement," well, that's all good, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's any better. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a better watch. I don't always believe that. You need to research about that watch with people that have actually owned the watch.
Moving along quickly, I've got to get some of these super chats done. Librero Grand, $5. Alex, how is serviceability of vintage 1970 Grand Seiko?
The last time I worked on a 1970s Grand Seiko, I think I was like 20 years old. I'm 38 now. So once that's a, I don't know if Seiko UK actually taken in a vintage piece, but I would suggest using them on something like that.
GS Superman, $20. How big of an innovation was the coaxial movement compared to your normal lever escapement? Do you think it's overrated?
Oh no,
That's what a lot of Omegas use that coaxial.
it's a fantastic movement, but they started to oil it. The whole point of it was to have no friction, no oil. But then they changed it so many times to the point where the original movement was changed in the original watch, which devalued them. No, it's a fantastic. How George Daniels thought of that escapement, I don't know. It's, by the way, it's a British lever escapement, not Swiss. It's the Brits that made it, not the Swiss. I have to say
Thomas, no, that's okay. Thomas Burdett, £4.50. What was the most interesting vintage watch you have ever worked on, Alex?
Probably the one that I built. I'll have to show you pictures of it. And that maybe I'm being biased, but I think the one I built. I think.
Here we go. GS Superman, $20.
It does as well. Sorry, I'm laughing. Sorry.
Roger Smith wears a lady size 36mm Explorer like our main man Archie. What do you? Yes, very true.
But why does he wear that watch though? He should be wearing his own watch when he's seeing though. I don't get it. What's that all about?
He wants to be a common man.
Well, he's not. He's not.
Mad Men, $5. Upvote. Great show, fellas. Any thoughts on Breitling's B01 versus equivalent Omega, Zenith or Rolex? Who makes the most reliable, robust chrono movement?
Wait a minute. The B01, just off the top of my head, is that the one that's the...
That's the Breitling, the in-house one, Dave.
Well, once again, Breitling B01, extremely expensive to service. Parts are not... You won't get the parts. Equivalent to Omega, Zenith, Rolex. So it'll be Rolex, Omega, Zenith, then Breitling. From Rolex being first, the best.
Oh, I see.
Never look down on the Zenith. That Zenith Daytona that was made to apparently look like a Rolex is better than a Rolex Daytona. Ooh. I will 110% say that. And I've not even seen the watch. It's because of what's in it and that it's got a date. A Rolex Daytona has no date. What are you going to use the chrono for? To boil an egg? Let's be honest.
And they also detuned it as well, didn't they? It was a high beat movement originally, wasn't it?
Yeah, they changed it apparently 100 times.
Wow.
Approximately.
Wow, there you go there. It's very, very... Here we go. Tim S., $2. Any brands to avoid based on their movements?
Oh, man, my brain has just gone... Has gone. Based on their movements.
He's got to be careful what he says there.
Based on their movements.
I mean,
some
look,
more fragile than others.
I hate AP. Personally, I hate AP. I had an AP 14790, which that's the 36mm Royal Oak steel little. I had one of those, and the bloody thing. I took it to 3 watchmakers. It uses an ultra thin Jaeger-LeCoultre movement. Nobody could get any parts whatsoever. I ended up sending it to AP. Massive service bill, and okay, they did a good job. It was $2.5 US to service it and polish it and everything. Then I sold it to a guy who actually it's now worth a fortune. And it also doesn't work now. It has now stopped. It needs to be... Apparently AP now, on that watch, they do a movement swap. I don't know about you, Alex. What do you think of movement swaps?
All companies are doing it now. All big companies.
Are they really?
All
Rolex?
big No. A majority, nearly all companies are doing movement swaps.
Omega?
There's a lot of companies that do movement swaps. There's a lot. But
do you like that?
Do I like that? No, I don't like that. But to give you an idea, an ETA 2000, which is that really small ETA movement that goes in Cartiers, Santos's, Cartier will get 2 of the best and put it in one of the watches. So because it's such an unreliable movement, they'll time up 2 of them, and then the best one out of the 2, they will then take out the original movement, put that one in, and then that one gets sent off, gets refinished, and then goes in someone else's watch.
Bud the Stud, $5. What's the chance of these newbies getting drunk and shaving their head?
Well, I've not really got a huge amount of hair, but...
No, this is talking about the newbies. These are the... I got to be completely honest with you. I don't know if they'll last that long.
Can
Been
I
a
just
bit
say something?
disappointed.
Sorry.
Yes.
Cartier Chronoflex has to be one of the worst movements I've ever come across.
I had a Cartier. That was that
No,
idea was it
no.
was a quartz movement with a
Oh.
mechanical chronograph module stuck on.
No. Don't
I had it
ever
in a
buy
tank.
one of those watches.
I had it in a. It was in a tank, a Cartier Francais, tank Francais. That's what it was in. You know the
Oh,
Cartier tank. That's what I had it
yeah.
in.
No, don't.
Very 90s. Very 90s.
Oh, no.
I thought I was so cool, man. I was cool.
Is
And
that
the
what
Breitling-
IWC used in their Mecha quartz? That same
It may have been. Yes. It's very similar, isn't it? If not the same.
and Porsche design ones.
Can I answer this one?
Here we go. Ken Fresno, $5. Will shooting a firearm while wearing a modern Rolex damage the movement?
No. I've been fortunate enough to shoot firearms when I was younger because of my father, obviously being all legal.
Yes.
So over and under is my favorite, not side by side. But no, it won't damage. No.
How about golf?
Yes. You don't ever play with an automatic watch with playing golf. Don't ever use an automatic watch when playing golf or tennis. Don't do it.
Tennis as well.
Tennis, it's hard hitting sports because the rotor spins like crazy. Also, it can cause shocks to the balance and the balance pivots. Don't do it.
Drums as well.
Drums, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Drums.
Ooh, you reckon?
Drums is more of, it's not so hard hitting, but a golf and tennis, I think, will take more of a hit.
So the solution is to get a Richard Mille then?
Well, apparently is it Nadal, even when he plays with his Richard Mille, he still has to get it serviced because of the impact. And is it Barrichello when he crashed he crashed his Formula One years ago, didn't he? His car. They say it was still working. Well, yeah, but it wasn't going properly. So, I respect that they are very, very, well-made Richard Mille. Apparently, the owner threw one on the floor in front of one of his friends just to prove that it will still go. I mean, it's marketing as well, isn't it? But they are hard wearing.
Are they like 18 grams or something like that? Ridiculously light?
I'll be honest with you, it's only very less than 5 I've ever actually tried on or seen. So, but they are very, very, very light.
So you think they're okay to use for sports, Richard Mille?
No, I don't think any mechanical watch.
Yeah, I just very quickly, Kevin V, $5. What do you think of the Rolex Caliber 3000 versus the 3130? I own the 14270 Explorer 1 from 1999.
I prefer the 3130, to be honest. 3000 is still a fantastic. It's a non-day, isn't it? 3000. But the 3130 is also non-day, I believe or not. 3130 for me. 3130.
Wow.
Which is the newer version. Yeah.
Amazing.
I would say.
We've got Bud the Stud, $5. What about the Omega $50,000 golf watch?
Well, I don't even know about that.
Actually, can I just mention one thing quickly? I don't know if you remember in the 90s, there was a Cartier Pasha from your favorite brand, Cartier Pasha Golf, and it let you have a golf score. So you could keep track of what your golf score was on the course. Remember the Cartier Pasha Golf? Could you wear that? No, I don't think you could. You should leave it in your buggy.
Yeah, was it automatic?
Yes, it was. It just had a thing which allowed you to keep golf. You know how you can keep track of how you're going, how many hits you have had there.
Yeah.
It had a different ruby or an emerald for each button. Cartier Pasha Golf. That's what it was called. I'll just see if I can find a picture of it, because I remember I thought, geez, that looks so cool. I'll just pull up a picture. Just hang on there. Share screen. Just hang on. Just bear with me. I'm a bit. Share. Here we go. So this is what it looked like. Oops. Here we go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Here we go. It kind of looked, yeah, like this. You see how you could keep golf score?
Right. Okay.
Like an octopus. It's like an octopus.
Yeah.
Because those little buttons, that's how you each time your mate hit a ball, you pressed it once, to signify how you're going in golf. The Cartier Pasha Golf.
Oh, man. Well,
I assume it wasn't really for golf use. You know what I mean?
As you know, I've never seen one of those and didn't even know they
No.
existed.
I just thought I'd add it in there. A bit of a tidbit from the past. No, I've never actually seen one in real life, to be honest with you. I just remember it years ago. It was in the catalog, and I thought, my God, this is early 90s. Early 90s. It was, because see, I collect the catalogs. I don't know if you noticed this. I
Oh,
got
my
catalogs
word.
going back years. Books, catalogs, absolutely everything I collect. A bit of a hoarder.
Wow.
Bit of a hoarder. Next super chat here. Tim S, $2. Is golfing an issue? Yes, did we do that one?
Oh, he's asked for manual any mechanical timepiece.
Oh, manual wind. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. So we were talking automatics before. I don't think it's the hard whack. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, there's
In
no
fact,
need for it.
I had a friend of mine who I'm about to do a phone call with. He's a doctor. And he swears blue. He uses a 3941, a Patek perpetual calendar with the bracelet. He says, I've always used it to play golf. I said, please stop. Please stop. I said, you're not doing it any... Oh, no, it's worked perfectly. Just because you got away with it doesn't mean it worked perfectly when you did it. I had a boss. Let me tell you this, Alex. I had a boss years ago. Real mean, nasty guy. He used to wear a chronomat.
Oh, love Bradley Chronomat, yeah.
Real
yeah.
geezer, real. And he said to me, no, it's perfectly waterproof. I take it in the pool all the time. And I said, that doesn't mean it's waterproof. That means you got away with it.
Chronomat, that's the 3-piece case, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the one with the bezel
I wouldn't be taking it in water.
No, don't do it.
And he also would run the chronograph continually. I said, hang on a minute. It's not a column wheel chronograph. You shouldn't be doing that. It's a CAMS chronograph. He goes, I do it all the time. I want the big second hand going around. I said,
you don't. I never understand why people do it. Sorry to interrupt you, but I never understand.
No, you're right. I can't. It's a bugbear.
I don't get it. That's not your subsidiary That's not your seconds. That's your chronograph.
Exactly.
Chronographo in Greek means measuring time. You're measuring time. It's a stopwatch. So
yes,
you don't. Yeah, this is, and what's interesting is, so now we're on this. What's interesting is I switch it off on quartz watches, and some people say to me, Alex, my watch is not working. No. It's because your chrono's off. What do you mean, chrono? So then you have to explain it to them, and unfortunately, some of them still don't understand it. But yeah, it's
ADG £4.50. Good to be back after a few months, Arch. Great show today. Curious about our guest thoughts on the Patek Philippe 215. That's Patek's manual wind movement versus the new movement on the 6119. That was the big. I don't know if you probably haven't seen the newer movement. It's only just came out last year.
No.
But what do you think of the Patek 215 movement? That's on all of their Calatravas, and it's a workhorse. That's the Patek workhorse.
Do you know, it's funny you should ask me about Patek, really, because I was in Boodle and Dunthorne in Liverpool today because I was looking at some rings with my fiancée, Natalie, and they're the Patek dealers. And I asked to see a Patek. It was a rose gold complication, 165,000 sterling.
Wow.
Right.
So you're going to get the ring for her, and she's going to get you the watch.
So I didn't even try the watch on, but I looked at it and thought,
my God, Liverpool used to be a working class town. What the hell is this?
oh, listen, Liverpool is, look, there's a lot of money in Liverpool.
I know.
You know how many people walk past me and they're wearing real Rolexes? It's like, it's huge. It's massive. It's huge market. So I didn't try the watch on. I looked at it, and I will say this. It was impeccable. However,
What was it? What sort of complication? You remember what?
it was definitely chronograph, and I think there was other complications on it, but I didn't look at it.
Oh, it might have been an annual calendar chronograph.
It may have been, yeah. I didn't really want to stare at it any longer, but I really appreciated the work on it. However, I will say that the lower end Pateks, for the money you spend, it's quite disappointing, in my opinion. I think it's really disappointing. It's almost an anticlimax. But when I saw the 165 one, I thought, wow, that's a watch. But still,
Yeah.
165K.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But the question here, which is a fantastic question, is Archie, you know better than me. I'm not really that clued up on Patek, especially the newer movements.
Yeah. Well, the weakness was the 215. It was made for a 33 mil case, and they also used it in many ladies' watches. Okay, ladies' Pateks. Later on.
Yeah.
So the reality is, the movement in my 37 mil 5196, they've actually got a big spacing ring around it, right? Because the movement is, you know what I mean? So what they've done is with the 6119, they've made this movement to fit a larger case. So it doesn't need this. It's the embarrassing spacer ring. Okay, it's embarrassing. The most embarrassing thing watchmakers do is, instead of having a metal spacer ring, they have, I don't even know if I should say this to you.
No, the plastic.
Plastic. I don't know what you think of plastic, but that's a sin.
It's very
in fact,
common.
Don't just laugh at it. Don't think plastic means it's in the ladies. I had a Patek. I bought my wife a Patek 24. That's a quartz Patek. It also had a plastic spacer. And actually, I went to the Patek show in Singapore, and I said to the watchmakers there, I said, "Why the hell did you use?" I said, "Look, we only used a plastic spacer to get the first models out. Later on, we went back to we used metal spacers now in that model." They did say that to me. They said it was embarrassing. They said, "Oh, it is embarrassing." He agreed with me. It was embarrassing. And you know who else uses a lot of plastic spacers?
Cartier.
Yes, Cartier do. Like I had a Louis Cartier tank, which is like their flagship watch. It's got a bloody. That watch was garbage. I mean, absolutely no humidity control. It would fog up as soon as look at it. I ended up selling it because I said to myself, you know what? This is going to damage the dial. If it keeps fogging up like this, you're going to damage your dial. Just piss it off. I ended up selling it. Give someone else. Here we go. GS Superman, $20. Unsure if you've seen the new 9SA5 movement from Grand Seiko. If so, how good of an invention was their dual impulse escapement? On paper, it looks phenomenal. Have you ever heard of that? I don't think you really specialize in Grand Seiko, but have you heard of that idea?
No, I haven't heard of that idea, but I'll tell you now, with the Japanese, they don't mess around when it comes to technology and escapements and you know, on the watchmaking side. So I'm sure it's fantastic. I mean, this guy has sold it to me. I don't even know. You know what I mean?
It sounds sexy. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about, but it sounds sexy. Bob Loblar, $5. Thoughts on the Rolex Chrono-G movements, notorious for low amplitude. What's he talking about?
Low amplitude.
I'm lost.
Okay, so amplitude is when you fully wind your watch. A lot of watchmakers base how good a watch is by the amplitude. So we use a time machine. It has the rate, the beat error, and the amplitude. Now, amplitude is important, but it's not the most important thing. This is something, it's the rate. You've got to have a constant rate in the hanging positions, which is crown down, crown left, crown right, chronometer rating. You know, these are the important positions, and you've got dial up. Nobody walks around like this every day. It's more like crown down. So the way to tell if a Rolex is at its best at the time it comes in is that you half wind it. Now you can only do this if you can do it from the crown, but when I open up a Rolex, I check it and then I half wind it. You check the amplitude on its half wind in crown down position, and if it's 200 plus, then it's good. If it's 200 less, then it needs a service. It's gonna cause errors. It's the rate. The rate is really, really important. Amplitude is not the be all and end all. It's the rate that's really important.
I see what you're saying there. Very, very interesting. I want to ask you. Many years ago, Rolexes, the beats. You have like they have the certain, like most watches are 28.8, aren't they?
Yeah.
Years in the 60s and that they used to be about 15. I think 15.6. I can't remember the exact number. It was about that there, and the whole point they went to the higher beat. The higher beat was because it's more accurate. Is that true?
Well, it's better performance, yeah, more accuracy. There's it's better, yeah. In my opinion, it is better. I mean, you could go off the scale and have a Zenith El Primero, which is extreme high beat. It's 36,000 plus, but I would say that the Rolex movements now from 90s, from like the 15 caliber is can be a nightmare. It's classes of vintage now. The 1530. Parts are difficult to get hold of. It can be a nightmare with timekeeping, power reserve. But then once you hit the 30 and then 31 plus, I think you're in safe hands. But it's the 15 caliber that I think is a bit of a nuisance.
I see. But the idea was that if it has a lower rate, it can actually be longer service intervals, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I would say yes and no. I don't know. I don't.
Because that was sort of, I heard that was the reason that when Rolex had the high beat Zenith movement, they tuned it down because they said, oh, service intervals would be too. When it was a 30, when it was a high beat at 33.6, they tuned it down to 28.8 because they said, oh, the service intervals would be too short.
I don't know, because I've seen some Zenith El Primeros, that have lasted, within their service intervals of 3 to 4 years plus with no issues. And this is also with the customers just having that damn chronograph running all the time.
I hate that. That's one of my pet peeves is running that damn chronograph all the time. Racing R, 5R, Archie, Omega Speedmaster. I hate that watch, by the way. I hate the X33. That's the Omega Quartz. It's a quartz, titanium, or Breitling Aerospace. You know what? I hate both of them. I probably hate the Omega more.
And you have every right to hate them. Racing R, please do not buy one of those watches. Don't do it. Don't. With that money that they are, maybe it's worth spending just a bit more to get something else. But do not buy either watch. It's going to cost you in the long run on the service intervals. Trust me. Don't do it.
Also, I'd be very careful buying an Oyster Quartz. What do you think of Oyster Quartz?
Oyster Quartz are a fantastic movement. Okay.
Probably one of the best quartz movements ever made.
Well, it's weird because it has a set of pallets and like an escape wheel in it, and it's quartz. The only thing is, as long as the motor isn't damaged, which is hundreds of pounds, you're safe. Just as long as that motor is not damaged inside. But it's a fantastic movement.
How do you stop it being damaged inside? Could you give us some tips if someone's got an Oyster Quartz? What should they do to prolong the life of it?
Take it to somebody that knows what they're doing.
Okay. You will gladly work on them?
Yes, yeah, I work on them, yeah. But once again, it's a bit of a cliffhanger because sometimes parts are available and sometimes they're not because it's an old watch.
Tell me this. I heard one of the most difficult, very difficult, I don't know, I'm asking you. One of the most difficult chronographs to work on is the original Hoya Monaco Caliber 11.
Oh. Is that because of parts being obsolete, or
no, just because it's such a bastard to work on? Because it was a module that was fitted on top of an automatic movement. We're talking these are 1970s, the original, not the reissue, because that uses a Solita and it's a bit more rugged. But the original Caliber 11 is just There's a guy in Germany who apparently is the guru on servicing them. He's specialized.
Really?
He's got backlog for 12 months,
Yeah.
apparently. That's what I've heard.
Well, I'm not experienced on that, but what I'm experienced on is the Omega Speedmaster Reduced, which is used as a bolt-on
Yeah.
from a 2892. That
Yeah.
is not, that is a move. That is a bolt-on mechanism in terms of the chronograph mechanism bolts onto the auto 2892. A lot of watchmakers don't like working on those because they're not easy.
Very quickly, Mike Hammer, $5. I can confirm, ruined an automatic playing golf. There we go. We got somebody who said it now, okay?
Yeah.
And it's the drive. What we're talking about is the drives. You got to, when you're driving, it's mainly when you're teeing off there. Here we go there. Here we go. Bursa, $5. What's the worst that could happen wearing a watch that wasn't being serviced in 30 plus years? It's like driving a car with old oil in it. You tell me. The longer you use it, I can answer this. What's the worst that can happen? Please, Alex, tell this man.
Okay, so if it's on a Rolex 3035 or 3135, the rotor post starts to wear. As the rotor post starts to wear, the rotor starts wobbling, starts cutting into the plates. On a 2892, the reverser wheels start to wear, and it's like this dust starts to go everywhere. So sometimes you see like 2892 movements where on the glass back where there's dust all over the place. You know, there's many things that can happen. There's many things that can happen.
Here we go. RPM, $7 Canadian. Would Omega still be able to service a Valjoux 7750 Speedy day date? Is it easier to service?
Yeah, Omega would still definitely service that movement. I would. They would. 100%.
Isn't the day date based on a Lemania 5100?
I believe so, yeah. But we talk, yeah. But the day is the one that they produced back in the 90s, wasn't it? Early 2000, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what I believe. Yeah.
So they would have no problem. Omega Service Centers, excellent. I mean,
Here we go.
I'm not trying to dissell myself, but
Claude C, $5. Alex, what would you consider the most critical when purchasing a watch? Movement, design, or strength of the brand? Good question.
Okay, this is an interesting question because I always say this. You should buy from the heart. But when you buy from the heart, you should really study. So studying would be the movement and then the strengthiness of the case and the bracelet. This is really important. I would say the movement. Just figure out if the movement, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Claude C's got a picture of a Breguet chronograph on there, and that has the Frederick Piguet movement. I'm sure it does. I'm sure that one does. But yeah, I would definitely say the movement. And strength of the brand, well, that can what the value of the watch after so many years is strength of the brand, and also check out their after sale service as well. I would say, so consider all those before you buy the watch. But it's what you like at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, exactly right there. Here we go. Got an amazing super chat. This is the amazing super chat. This is Legend Status. Legend Status.
Wow, $100.
GS Superman is getting a vintage Zenith 3019 movement. Going to be a pain in the ass to service. I'd love to get the movement that started the chronograph movement, but worried. Great guest, by the way, Arch. Hey, man, we get the best of the best. We get the best of the best. Perpetual Time. Don't forget, Alex is a watchmaker in Liverpool. Perpetual Time. And he's a great guy. What do you think, Alex? A vintage Zenith 30. What's he talking about? He's talking about the movement in the Rolex, is he?
The vintage Zenith 3019 movement. Can we see a picture of a 3019 movement? So I can
I'm just going to find one for you.
Yeah, well, it's amazing they sent $100. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm just bringing it up. Just hang on here. We'll get this up here. Oh, what the hell's it doing there? It's a Movado. It's an El Primero. Okay, here we go. Just bringing it up on the screen. Now share screen. Share screen. Share screen. There we go.
Oh, okay. This is the El Primero, yeah.
Yeah, El
Yeah.
Primero.
So yeah, I just know. Sorry, I just know from being as El Primero. Now I did this on my WASTEP final examinations. I still have nightmares over this watch. However, it is El Primero movement is a fantastic movement. And this is the high beat escapement El Primero. This is mother of all chronograph movement. There we go. There you see.
This has stopped working, by the way, so this is going to come your way, hopefully.
Yeah,
What's
send it
stopped
to
working?
me.
What's stopped working?
This Zenith that I bought a few months ago.
Oh, why did it stop
Oh,
working?
I don't know. All of a sudden, just
But
stopped.
what does it wind? If you shake it, does it wind?
No.
Does it-
did you buy it not working? Sorry, Archie.
No, it was working. It was working.
Ah.
It does wind, but you just hear cogs.
Excuse
move,
me,
but
do you
nothing
have small
happens.
children and a tiled floor by any chance?
Yeah, blame it on the children.
No, I don't
It's their
actually.
fault. You got to take out their
Do you have
pocket money.
rodents? Do you have pets?
Take out their pocket money. No. He's getting a vintage pain in the ass, so I'd love to get the movement and start. I no, I don't.
I think he's just. I think the Zenith movement. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think so. The Zenith movement, the original Zenith El Primero movement they came out with, I don't think they did terribly much to it to today's movement, did they? They made a few little tweaks, but it's largely original.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even. Okay, it is a vintage movement, but I don't see it as vintage. But it really is a vintage movement. I would just make sure that if he's getting, I just want to know where he's getting it from. I want to know who is he buying from and what warranty terms come with it, because you don't want to buy a vintage watch and then having to service it within 6 months. So, but either way, you don't want to bear the cost of that. But it's important who he's buying from. But it's a great movement. But it depends who he gives it to service. Can they get the original parts? Are they experienced? Or are they just going to work on it? This is really important.
Ant G, $5. Any harm not running a watch for months, years? If so, how often should a movement be wound? Very, very good question.
This is quite a difficult question, in my opinion. I don't see the point of running a watch if you're not going to wear it. Just put it in a safe place that's dry. But I wouldn't start winding it for no reason. You know, the oils that they use now, like Mobius oils, they're so good that they can withstand temperature and they can withstand idleness. You know, there's no issue in my opinion. So I wouldn't wear it.
I just wanted to show a really great site I've used for years, guys, called WatchBase. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, Alex. It basically is a watch site. This is a site which it tells you the movement, the calibers that watches use. So if you're not sure what caliber does a certain watch have there, like say, for example, we typed in Patek. I'll just show you Patek 5196. That's the manual wind watch I've got. It brings it up. We say, oh, okay, the yellow gold one I got. And it tells me, this little website tells me the movement that's in this thing. It tells me what it is. It says it's using a movement Patek caliber 215 PS. PS is for the sub-seconds. It tells me when it came out. It tells me a bit about the watch. If I click on that movement, it actually brings up a photo of that said movement. Tells me the frequency. That's what we're talking about before there. Tells me it's hand wound. It tells me the jewels, the reserve. It tells me a lot of good information. So, and it also gives me a list of watches that also use that movement. You can also search by brand, like we were just talking about Breitling before. So say a Breitling, we go to say a we could go for a here's one here. Here's a Super Ocean Heritage 2. It tells me, so this is the new ceramic one. It tells me it uses the B20 movement. And it says that's a Tudor. That's actually the in-house Tudor, the MT5612. I click on the movement. It shows me the movement. And it also tells me what other watches use that same movement. So it's a very It's a very good source. I find that an amazing source there. Watchbase. It's been there for years. It just tells you. I find it very interesting. Sometimes you have a watch, you want to know what else uses that same movement, especially you can very quickly check it. I have found a few errors in it. It's not 100% foolproof like anything in life, but pretty good site. I just thought I'd mention that very quickly. Watch Timepiece Fun, $2. P. Diddy said RM glorified Timex. P. Diddy. I don't know who's that?
Puff Daddy, yeah. Puff Daddy,
Buy
yeah.
house instead. Do you think that's a glorified? I think that might be a bit nasty.
What? Richard Mille's a glorified Timex.
I think
you tell me a Timex that's worth 100 grand plus.
Exactly. We've got Humble Pine, $10. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to getting through these super chats here. Pine Baron, Humble Pine, $10. Just signing in and upvoting, although I have no idea what the pontiff has been saying up till now. And then I've got Plastic. What's Plastic saying here? Plastic's always got... Plastic said, should Mrs. Plastics 2015 Datejust 2 get serviced? It runs okay. There you go. His wife wears this daily. Should a Datejust 2 get serviced? 2015. So what makes it 6 years? Is probably a prime candidate for a service now.
Yeah. I mean, he's now in the red zone, so to speak. He's probably got another 12, 18 months before it's most probably going to start hitting problems with the auto, I would say. Yeah, so he needs to get it serviced now because it's already in the danger zone.
Now, AG, he's unhappy with his answer there. Any harm not running a watch for months, years? If so, how often should movement be wound? So he's saying, if you've got them in the safe, like I've got a few pieces in the safe, should I periodically run them or just leave them alone in the safe? What do you think?
I don't see any harm, Mr. Angie. Is it Angie? I don't see any harm leaving them in the safe. As long as that's safe. Go on, sorry.
What you're saying is you shouldn't have to, once a year, wind them up at least. Just leave them there. Don't do anything if you don't want to wear them.
Well, what's going to happen is
well, like he's saying, should you run the oils through it? The oils move a bit.
Okay.
Like a car. See, like you got a vintage car, they say you should start it up every month or two just to keep the thing going. Because then if you leave it for too long, the bastard won't start. The fuel, everything goes cruddy and bad.
Okay, so you got the oil, you got the grease or oil on the pallet faces, and then on the pallets. I don't know. I mean, there's no harm running it once in a while, but I wouldn't think it's life or death. Maybe another watchmaker would say, Alex, what the hell are you talking about? But I would just leave them. I mean, give them a wind every 6 months or 12 months, but
okay, 6 to 12 months. Give it at least one wind. There we go. Bursa, $5. Like an expensive car, you don't take it to a mechanic who doesn't know what he's doing, and you will keep having your $5,000. Yeah, sometimes taking it to butchers is not a good idea.
But for valeting as well. The valeting, people can devalue your watch in a millisecond with valeting and servicing, but with valeting.
What's valeting? Sorry, that's the polishing.
Polishing, yeah.
It's got a wheel. I just give it a little bit of a polish. Just let me give it a bit of a squirt.
With the yellow stick, just put it on for a couple of seconds. It'll be all right. It'll be lovely jubbly.
You love it. But the dangerous thing is to actually polish your watch properly. You've got to pull the whole thing apart.
Yeah, the more you can strip down, the better, especially like the AP bracelets, and
they're a bitch. And here we go, Raf, $10. When a watch gets intermittent wrist time every other week, for example, do you recommend to keep it running on a winder, or is it okay to have it stop and then restart it on a regular basis? Good question. Very good question.
What's his wording on intermittent though?
He wears it for 1 week, then he may leave it for 2 weeks not wearing, then he'll come back to it. Like if he's doing that, should he just put it on the winder for the week he's not wearing it, or?
Yeah, he can. Yeah, I mean, look, watch winders. The benefits for watch winders is obviously it keeps your watch going, but also it puts less stress on the
I find
crown.
I find where people fuck most watches up is when they constantly set the date. That's where you cause a lot of trouble, particularly these Patek's and
Oh,
APs. It's when you constantly are setting the date. And Rolex is very forgiving. I must say this. Rolex is very, very forgiving of, but Patek, an annual calendar or a perpetual calendar, you don't change it in the right zone, you can cause some expensive damage.
oh yeah. Also on the 7750 as well, you can damage it, and it's massive, massive. It's always been a problem. The 7750 to date.
So sometimes it's good to use if you want to use a winder's not going to be terrible, but hey, Racing R, $5, Archie, Breitling Super Ocean Heritage, 42 or 38.
Okay, can I answer this?
Yes, of course.
So, racing art, the most important thing with these two watches is whoever you're buying it from, ask them this, email them and say, can the tube on the case be extracted, or is it a complete middle case? If they come back and say it's a complete middle case, don't buy either two watches. This is really important. Really important.
I don't understand.
Okay, so on most watches you have the crown, don't you? And you can unscrew it
Yep.
out, and
Yep.
then you see the tube. You see the
Yep.
tube, don't you? Now
Mhm.
on Breitling, they laser that tube onto the middle case, so that means that every time your crown and tube wear, Breitling expect you to pay X amount of money to have your complete middle case replaced on an exchange basis, whether it's steel or even solid gold. Nearly all companies just extract the tube and put a new tube in. This way, you cannot get it done by an independent unless they drill out the old
see.
tube. This is something that Mr. Racing R needs to ask prior to buying those either two watches.
I would like to invite GS Superman to come on the chat. I'm posting a link now. I would like Mr. GS Superman. He has made some considerable contributions financially, and he's got an amazing collection. Let's get him on this chat. I am posting the link. This is only for GS Superman. This is for no one else. It's today's show is a special show. We've got top brass, and I want to get him on here to discuss his amazing GS Superman $100. Do you think high beat? How do you think the high beat movement, like the 36K beats per hour, negatively impacts servicing, or has the technology nowadays mitigated that? Companies now have dual or more barrels to compensate for power reserves.
How do you think high beat movement like that? I don't know. I think the technology that they have now, I don't think it's. I think technology has made it vast. I mean, it's what can be done on movements now, like silicon escape wheels and this and that, is amazing. So I think high beat escapements isn't a problem.
What's your view of dual barrels? Like my reverso has actually dual barrels. What do you think of dual barrels?
Well, it's more working parts, isn't it? There's
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
more stuff that can go wrong. It's like having
Because the problem is when you have a watch that like has 8-day power reserve, it's very hard for it to give constant timing. Like often when it's at the end phase of the winding cycle compared to when it's fully charged up, it's very hard to keep it regulated, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's why you should wear it and wind it. No, but I agree with that. That's very, very true.
Yeah. GS Superman, you are welcome to come on. Just let me know there. Bursa, $2. Should watch movements have an odometer? Good. Like, should it tell you how close to it? That's a good question. I suppose that's another complication there. Normally it's time. How do you know when to service it? Is it time? Is it wearing you do, or both? Everything.
How would that be? Yeah, that would be difficult to do, wouldn't it? Electronically, it'll be okay, but mechanically, have they ever made a watch that actually tells you mechanically when it needs servicing? I'm asking you that, Archie.
No, I don't
They
think it
haven't.
can. I don't think it can. I mean, the only way it could do it would be on time basis, like how many. See, the problem is it's a very flawed system. You've just got to intervene into it. I think the problem is any system would have to be on time, but then the time's not running. So how would it know? Because it only knows time it's charged up and running. When it's asleep, it's like putting someone into a coma. It doesn't. It can't count time when it's in a coma, can it?
I don't think someone would appreciate the fact that their watch is going to be overpriced because it's got a complication that tells you when it needs servicing.
Yeah, it's sort of
Think
yeah,
about it.
It's probably about as useful as a tourbillon.
Yeah, exactly. Tourbillons, they're not as accurate as everyone goes on about. I just don't, especially these Chinese ones. And someone's watching this channel that's just bought a Chinese complicated tourbillon, and he's watching now. And I'm not going to say who, but I've told him it's not a true Swiss tourbillon, but he won't listen to me.
What do you think of
man.
those Chinese tourbillons?
Oh,
Garbage.
they're not
Absolute
tourbillons.
Viking garbage, aren't they?
You know who I'm talking to. They're not tourbillons. No. They shouldn't be allowed to call it. They shouldn't be allowed to call them tourbillons because they're not. They're not. There's a few companies that have started to produce them. Sorry, buy them.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, you see these very cheap tourbillons. I mean, what do you think of these cheap? I can't imagine how you would even service this sort of garbage.
I don't touch them because they just replace the movements. And even then, it doesn't mean that the movement you're going to get is any better than the one you had. So they're just Chinese produced movements. They're not accurate. They don't even look nice. They're blued screws
No.
are not proper blued, and the finish on them is like it's just real bad finish, and I think it's really misleading. I think it's misleading. However, a Swiss-made watch to be classed as Swiss-made only needs to be a percentage to be made in Switzerland for the whole watch to be Swiss.
Do many makers, like, this is the big thing I've been fearful of. Some of the big makers, I'm not going to name any names, of course, but they do make stuff in China for their Swiss watches.
Yes, because they're allowed to.
Labor is so cheap there,
Yeah, I mean, Audi do the same. Audi, even though the German cars, a lot of their parts or even their engines are produced elsewhere. And then once it comes into Germany and fitted, it's a German car.
Mike Hammer, $5. The lower the hertz, the longer the movement will last.
Well, I class hertz as a quartz watch.
But he's saying the lower the beat. I think he means lower the beat. So 28.8. You have like some Pateks at 21,000. You got some 15. Yeah, 21.6. That's right. Does that mean it's got less? Well, I suppose it's less wear and tear. Like it's how many cycles it does, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's less wear and tear, it's less cycles.
But it doesn't necessarily mean it'll be longer. I think what you're saying is it doesn't mean you can service it once every 10 years instead of once every 5 years.
Yeah, but at the same time, that watch is over 30, 40 years old. So it's neither here or there, is it?
What do you think of vintage? Like, what do you say? Someone brings in, say, a vintage sub from the 60s. Do you say to them, look, you shouldn't really be using this for diving? What advice do you give there?
So the advice I give is that I can check your watch for sealing. However, I still won't warranty it for sealing, but I will tell you if it passes or fails, which is basically what Rolex do. At so many years, I think it's 15, 20 years, they no longer class a watch as chronometer rated, and they're no longer are willing to say it's 100% to its water resistance.
Do you ever have people who have these vintage watches who have no idea they're so valuable?
Many, and I refer them to specialists because I'd rather refer them to specialists that I know is going to look after them, or I find somebody else that's willing to buy the watch, rather than they hawk it around As soon as they start showing it to all other dealers, the dealers are going to start to know either that person is desperate or they don't have a clue about their watch. It happens a lot. Happens a lot. I had two elderly men that came to see me with red Submariners, and I
Yes.
gave them to a specialist, but they only wanted to sell them to me for a couple of grand.
I see. Ramsey, $5. Does IWC or Breitling modify their ETA Salita movements to make a difference, or is it just marketing?
Yes, they do. They do make a difference. It's that IWC engineer with the Mercedes, if you remember. They modified the hell out of that movement. You know, they did a lot to it. You know, and it was a 7750, I believe.
Yeah, IWC loves the 7750. They think that they actually, even when they made an in-house, I had the Ingenieur with the, what was it, the 8. It had the in-house. They actually used the base plate, which is very similar to a 7750. That's how much they really ingrained. They love that movement. And that just goes to show you it's not a terrible movement at all, is it?
No, not at all. It saved the watch world, the ETA. But Salita movements are not no way as reliable as ETA.
Sorry, the IWC caliber, I'm just using Watchbase to bring this up, was an IWC caliber 80110. That's the movement. That's in the 3227. That's the 3227 IWC. And the caliber movement was an 80110, which is a in-house movement. And it's actually a 30 millimeter diameter. So quite a big movement there. Okay, here
Just before, sorry, we don't. Breitling don't modify. As far as I know, Breitling don't modify their ETA movements. They do refinish the look of them, but they don't on performance.
GS Superman, this guy is a legend. GS Superman, you are a legend. He's going out on a hot date, so good luck. Good luck with the ladies. Here we go. Last question before heading out. Does rotors, e.g. full micro or periphery, etc., really matter in the movement, or is more for aesthetics? Good question. So he's saying, do the rotors make a difference? Does it wind better if it's a big rotor as opposed to a micro rotor, or is it just all aesthetics?
Well, I've seen a lot of micro rotors that are in a precious metal because of the weight, because it's small, isn't it? It's smaller.
Yes.
Nothing the micro rotors I've seen work phenomenally, but I prefer a centered rotor, to be honest. Yeah, I like to see it move, But micro rotors are nice, but I prefer a large rotor. Like obviously like this in most watches.
Yes,
but aesthetic wise, I think it does look sexier, doesn't it? A micro rotor. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's just very quickly there. Here's my micro rotor. It was in my Patek World Time. It's the 240 HU. That's what it looks like. And my rotor was rooted. I had a rooted rotor because it jammed after the service. My rotor jammed. It jammed. I tried to flick it off and it wouldn't unstuck. And the rooted rotor was jammed. My rotor was rooted. Okay, there you go. That was. I think also the thing is, GS Superman, I think it's pure physics. The big rotor that you have in watches, they're going to be a lot more efficient, and that's the whole reason they use the big rotor, is they are a lot more efficient.
Is it dual wind?
Sorry,
does that rotor wind both ways or one way?
Actually, yes. Let's just double check that there. It tells me, let's call up the rotor, and it says, let's have a look here. Does it tell me? Does Watchbase tell me? It says it's automatic, analog. Doesn't tell me. I think it's, okay, we'll have to check that. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to check that. Doesn't tell me. Tells me different versions of it. Doesn't tell me. I was just going to say there, just out of interest there, the rotor itself, this is the Patek 315 movement rotor. Oh, they don't have a picture of it. It's got a big weight on it. And I got to tell you that movement itself there, it's going to be a lot more efficient. The whole point of having a big rotor is it's got a lot more power to it. So a micro rotor, I don't think will charge as much as a. It won't get as much winding power as a micro rotor. It's just physics. Is that wrong, Alex? What do you think?
I don't see a huge amount of micro rotors, so that's difficult for me to say. But
Okay. Yep.
I, I think it would just wind just as much, really.
Okay. There we
Yeah,
go. Okay.
yeah.
Well, a bigger rotor would need more energy to rotate it.
There's
So
that
I'm
as
not
well.
quite sure, whether that balances off against the.
I suppose the
the
question is, what's a
size.
more efficient winding system? Is a micro rotor just as good as a full rotor?
Well, let's just think of it this way. If Patek is still using it in their movements, and I've never heard anyone complain about
Well,
how
Patek do have the full rotor and the micro rotor. They do use the full rotor in a lot of stuff as well.
and how's it been for you? Because you own that movement, the micro rotor, don't you?
I've got
Apart from-
both. I got both. I've got the
Yeah.
micro rotor. I think the micro rotor, to be honest with you, I honestly don't wear them. I haven't done extensive tests. You know, like people say accuracy. Accuracy for me is if it's a couple minutes a week, that's okay. You know, a couple minutes, that's a month is okay. I'm not huge timing it to the second. I mean, that's not the point of mechanical watches. I think what I do notice is that with the big rotor, it does seem to charge up. It does seem to be a lot more heft to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, do you have a big solar panel on your house or a small solar panel? You're going to get more solar energy from a big solar panel, but it's
Yeah.
I think that the reality is, I'd have to do tests. We'd have to do tests, to be honest with you. It's a good question. It's a good question. Watches 24. Thank you so much, GS Superman. Watches 24, $2. Yes, sir. Alex,
Yes,
what
yes, sir, Alex.
watches?
You're saying hello
Oh,
to me.
yes. Yeah. What watches are in your collection? Your personal collection? What do you have?
Well, I have to tell you something. I find it very difficult to collect watches because I'll buy a watch and then in 2 or 3 weeks' time I'll sell it. I tried this whole watch collecting thing and I'm not a collector. I'm not a collector of watches. I'll be perfectly honest with you. However, this IWC I won't sell. And the next watch I want is the Bulgari Octo Finissimo.
Oh my God! You just spat it out.
Yeah, I want
You
that
like
watch.
the Bulgari?
Yeah, a lot. I know.
Why? It's just a fashion watch.
No. Have you ever seen one?
Yeah, I hate them.
Really?
Look, I'm not a watchmaker. I don't know anything about the movement, but just the design. I've
It's got
always
a
thought
micro rotor
Bulgari
in it.
sucked. I can remember when Bulgari had that B01 thing. Remember that?
Oh, look, yeah, and they made the rings as well, didn't they? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, I know they call them Bulgari, don't they? A lot of people find them vulgar, but the Octo Finissimo is beautiful. But I've owned a lot of watches throughout the years. But
Just
I've
very
always...
quickly, we'll come back to that. I've just got a Ramsey $5. Can you expand the difference between ETA and Sellita? You were about to say the latter is much less reliable, I believe. Why?
Okay, so basically Sellita took on ETA, didn't they? Because ETA apparently lost the patents in terms of no longer could hold the patents for making the movements. Sellita came along and then started making the movements and weren't making them in the quality as ETA. Sellita weren't making the quality as ETA. A lot of problems were happening on like the 2892. I think it's 2892 and 2824. The reverser wheels would wear within 6 months. The quality was no way as good as it should be. You could see that in Sellitas that were using in certain brands. You could have an ETA that was 2824 that was made 15, 20 years ago. Then you'd have a Sellita It,
So just let me ask you this. Salita, I thought Salita was a separate company to ETA because Swatch Group owns ETA and Valjoux, and they weren't
yeah,
releasing their parts to
yeah,
non-Swatch Group members.
yeah.
So Salita was kind of, are they a separate company or
I'm very sure Solita is a separate company. Yeah, I'm very
okay?
sure that they are, but the quality that they produced the movements was
Hmm.
not to an ETA standard from experience,
And
from
have
what
they
I've
gone
seen.
up since they've?
I believe now they've managed to sort out their issues, so you don't see as many problems. But from the
You prefer
beginning,
an ETA to a Salita? You're saying to me?
um, now I would say they're probably on par, but ETA of the original ETA 2892s, 2824, 7750s of, I think they're bulletproof. But obviously the reverses. So if a 2892 comes to me or a 2824, I always want to change the mainspring because you
Hmm.
should change it no matter what.
Hmm.
I just think it's worth changing. And change the reverser wheels and maybe check the pivots on the wheels as well.
Hmm.
And obviously any other worn parts replaced. But those are usually the parts that tend to wear. But on the new, when Salitas came out, there was problems, there was issues.
So tell me this: as far as Swatch Group goes, see that they are really quite nasty to the industry because they limited supply of ETAs to only their family, their umbrella of companies. It's really quite nasty, isn't it?
Um, there's two ways you could look at that though, because a lot of companies were charging extortionate amounts for their watches, and it was just an ETA. I
Yeah,
mean, look at Frank Muller. I
yeah,
remember when I worked for Watches of Switzerland in Manchester, and I used to adore Frank Muller. We're
yes.
looking at 15, 20 years ago at least.
Oh, they were so cool, man. Frank Muller was so, but the thing is, Frank Muller's a bit like Cartier. You're not buying a Frank Muller for the movement or the horology. You're buying it for that beautiful case, the dial. It's the packaging. You know what I mean? Frank Muller still is beautiful.
They are beautiful, but they're just so unreliable. Um, because we had a ladies platinum Frank Muller mechanical,
Mm-hmm.
tiny little thing, with a tonneau shaped, all
Yep,
platinum
yep,
bracelet.
classic.
And
Yep, yep, yep,
I think it was like 18, 20 grand. And we're talking like over 15, 20 years ago. And then we
yep.
needed to polish it. And we opened it up and it had a non finished ETA, tiny little movement in it that you could buy from Cousins for like 200 quid. I mean,
You think that's cheeky? Is that a little bit cheeky, Gov?
it's just a bit cheeky. I mean, Frank Muller as a person and as a watchmaker, he's outstanding. People don't give him the respect. And the
Because he
Swiss,
used to do. He was the master of complication, Frank Muller, wasn't he? That was his.
he called himself the master of complication, but apparently he got laughed at because of what his complications became were non-usable, like the crazy hours or the master banker and this and that. I found them fascinating, but
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
I just they weren't really complications. But then he made some amazing pieces. He made some
Very
crazy
quickly,
pieces.
Pine Barren, $10. A high beat watch with a 5 hertz 36.6 VPH watch has stronger balance and mainspring and puts more pressure on all pivots. It will need to be serviced more often than a low VHP movement.
Yeah, I appreciate the opinion, and obviously the $10 that he sent.
Exactly.
That's a matter
It's
of
very
opinion.
cool.
That's a matter of opinion.
RPM $7 was restricting the sale of ETA movements good for Swatch Group? Did it destroy the mid-range of the Swiss watch industry? Yeah, we're seeking your opinion. That's a very good point.
Okay, so let's say that Swatch carried on supplying these
Yes.
movements,
Yes.
right? Are you telling
Yes.
me that these companies now that are making their in-house movements would have made their in-house movements? Would have
No, they
still
wouldn't
made
have.
them?
They wouldn't have. They would
Wouldn't
have
have.
kept with the ETA, in my opinion.
So apart from losing money, who's
Yeah, but
actually
if they make a shitty, you just said at the start of the show, you said some of these makers are doing in-house, and they're shitty in-house. They're not the best.
There's
Wouldn't
one
it
in
be better?
particular.
Wouldn't it be
Sorry.
better to have a reliable ETA in the watch than a shitty in-house?
There's one particular company that is having that, in my opinion, I've heard and is having problems because I just think, considering the amount of money, the hundreds of millions or billions that they're producing, they could make a lot better movements. But who's really hurting from this? Is it the consumer? Would you say it's the consumer that's hurting from this with their in-house movements, or?
I reckon those who can afford the watches aren't really going to feel that pain because it's something that's done every few years and it's not that regular, and it's probably going to be an extra couple of £100 or dollars or thereabouts.
Well, when you buy the watch, they don't tell you how much it's going to be to service it. They keep that to themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
Dan Radke, $2. It's Friday Night Live with the Pontiff. Sucker Horn! Sucker Horn's in the crowd there. Thank you so much, Sucker Horn. And don't forget, Guy, we've got Alex from Perpetual Time. Perpetual Time, one of the leading watchmakers in Liverpool, taking care of high-end luxury watches, Rolex, Omega, Breitling, all the way up. Alex from Perpetual Time. ABC, £20. I have 3 to 4 questions to ask Alex on stream. Yeah, ask away. Depending.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, this
Okay.
is interesting. Go on. Go on. Should I be
Overnight
worried?
position of a watch, whether it runs too fast, too slow. I've heard things like crown up, crown down, face up, dial up, dial down. Does that depend on movement? And from your experience, how would you tweak these?
Well, you shouldn't need to tweak them if it's a chronometer rated watch. So, in my opinion, for me, when I go to bed at night, it's a habit. I put my IWC on a soft surface with the crown touching the surface or the other way around. But if a watch is chronometer rated, you shouldn't really have to put it in different positions because it is chronometer rated.
Because I came across an old bit of Rolex instructions that told you what to do to slightly adjust or regulate your watch in certain situations.
And that was actually from a Rolex official website.
It's very, but you can tell it's really old. It's on some crusty green paper, and you can tell from the typeset that it's pretty old. But I was just wondering if movements of the architecture, like the
I have seen that
3135
as well. I have seen that as well, actually. That that's the Rolex. They said if it's gaining a bit of time, put it at nighttime, put it upright or downright. They gave you advice like this.
Yeah.
I've
But
seen that.
what-
It's like greasing the nipples in the Austin Morris. The Morris. Grease the nipples every 1,500 miles.
You won't see that again, though, in terms of you'll never see Rolex put something out like that because the technology now in movements is so advanced. But I suppose that would have been on what, like a 50, 60-year-old article? Would you think it's fair to say?
Probably 60s. I'd say
see.
60s. I'd say there. Just very quickly, I'm just going to address this. Diz Jerez, Diz 6 shekels. AC3, I heard you're angry with me. Should I leave? No, we're not that angry at you. You're coming back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. We just got a really classy guy on. I got a really great guy. I didn't want to flood the channel with, look, it's sometimes I'm very lucky to get a great guest. If I get a high caliber guest, I got to give the high caliber guest the premium spot. That's the premium squeeze.
I appreciate that.
So,
Thank you. It'd be nice to meet him.
Yeah, Alex doesn't come on every day. This is a very special thing. So, this is the way it is there. I had another cockroach who was trying to do a stream and asking me for help, and I just basically said, you're just going to steal my punters. I'm not interested. So I made it very clear that I wasn't prepared to so I wanted to bring it in. This particular cockroach was doing something, so I wanted to have heavy hitters for today. That's the reason. Heavy hitter for today. We go back to normal programming tomorrow because Alex hasn't got the time to be here every bloody day of the week. He's very special. He comes on here. We're trying to add some value. And we're also trying to promote Perpetual Time. That's Alex's business in Liverpool. If you're in the UK, he's a good guy to get things serviced with. So, yeah, that's why we've got him on the stream today. Next super chat very quickly. We'll come back to you, ABC. Timely behavior, $3. A donation to the Pontiff. Thank you so much there. And we've also got Bezel of Steel, $5. Is it possible to have a watchmaker swap out a Solita for a comparable ETA, like on an Oris, for example? Good question. What do you think, Alex?
When I hear someone say to me, "Can you swap this for this?" I don't get involved. Look, just buy the watch that you should have had what it had, or buy something else. Don't do no swapping. Yeah, I'm sure it's most probably possible because of the diameter of the actual movement.
There's always little annoying things. Sometimes these watches, when they're in production, they've done little things for the case and that. You're better off to stick with the movement that was meant to be. It's like buying a car. Yeah. Do you swap the motor? And, oh, shit, the ECU doesn't work. We've got all sorts of issues, man. You're probably best, in honesty, to keep the movement it's supposed to have there. Don't be swapping bits.
I will say the parts are not interchangeable, though.
Ah, yes. Good point. Good point indeed.
But he probably can do what he wants to do. But why, though?
Tim S, quickly, we'll come back to your next question there, ABC, very soon. Tim S, $5. Yeah, sure. Have you ever seen any Haute Horology independent watches? Are they quality? Do their movements compare to those of major brands? I think he's talking like FP Journe. He's talking Richard Mille, I suppose. Independents. He's talking Moser, things like that. I don't suppose you've probably seen a lot of these things. They're so limited in production, but you answer it, Alex.
Well, I've never had an FP Journe come in my workshop for a service, and I wouldn't do it anyway because of, well, it's just not a watch that I would be willing to work on. But a Lang & Son, I've seen a few. A Lang & Son is bittersweet for me. I think I mentioned this before, because when I first saw a Lang & Son, it grabbed me emotionally. However, every watch I see now, I compare it to that. So it's bittersweet. A Lang & Son is a beautiful brand. All I say is that if someone actually wears a Lang & Son, I don't think they would ever go back to a Rolex. That's an opinion of mine. It's just
wow.
The workmanship and the detail is incredible. And I've been saying this for many, many, many years when I went to Salon QP in London. I think it was one of the first that they opened at the Archie Gallery. When I first saw a Lang & Son, it was amazing. It's
compared to Patek?
Oh, Lang & Son, personally for me, is more of a brand than a Patek, in my opinion. I think you get more. There's more meat on the bones. I think you get more for your money. And plus, I don't think they're that desired, Lang & Son. I think they still got a time. Maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years, people are going to start going to them. That's my feeling.
What's your feeling on Patek? I noticed you mentioned Lange. How do you feel Patek compares to Lange?
Well, I mean, after experience that £163,000 watch today, I think I've been a bit ignorant towards Patek, but I'm thinking more of the affordable Pateks, which is still not that affordable. You don't get quality for what you're paying. I just don't see it.
Sorry, so say that again. I see the entry level. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
you
yes.
don't. I mean, look at the ladies' Patek Philippe 24. It's a beautiful watch, but it's still massively overpriced.
Quartz movement in a bloody with a plastic spacer. Jay Wright, £2. Get this on after this for 10 minutes, Pontiff. Hiya, ABC. Yeah, look. We'll see how long Alex is gonna stay on today, because if it ends up, I'll do another stream with the normal crew. Can certainly come on, but today's special.
Stay on for another hour if you want.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. There,
Scoop.
I really wanted a heavy hitter today because I've got some friends who are supposed to be friends who really aren't friends, and I wanted to have heavy hitting guy on. So we'll do this for another hour. Then I will do another stream just to get the jokers on, and yeah, that's the way I see it there. We got Sovron. We'll come back to your questions, ABC, because you still got some more questions. Sovron's asking opinion on Bolivar's Accutron 360 hertz tuning fork movement.
In terms of what, that 1960s, 70s movement?
Yeah, the zzz. What do you think of that movement?
Shocking. Don't buy one. And I tell you,
a lot of people hate that. A lot of people hate them. I must say that. The only thing watchmakers hate more than that movement is working on an Atmos clock.
I will say this: there is a specialist in the UK that works on them. I'll find his details, but I don't work on them. And plus, there's like a wheel. There's like a certain wheel that wears out like crazy. It's got like 800 teeth on it. Right? Why? Can I ask? Any quartz watches made in that era, do not buy. Don't buy it. Don't pull the trigger. Don't romance over it. Go to something more modern, because you're going to pay for it in the service period. It's not worth it. You're going to get annoyed with it. It's going to cost you too much money. You're going to throw it in the drawer. It's going to be a burden on you. Don't buy quartz watches.
And well, whilst we're at it there, what's your opinion on the Jaeger-LeCoultre Atmos clock? I thought whilst we're on a roll, let's bring out two of these.
What do I think of it?
Yeah, what do you think? I think it's an amazing idea, but I think I've only ever had one that bloody worked. I've had about 3 or 4 of the bastards. Only one actually sort of worked.
I actually went to work for JLC, my work experience after Seiko. So I went from one opposite to the other, and they had a specialist watchmaker that worked on Atmos clocks. He had dwarfism, so he had a very small bench with like a tiny little chair, and he used to walk past me, and he used to always wave at me. He was excellent. He was the only person I'll trust on an Atmos clock, because they're highly accurate if it's serviced correctly. Once again, if it's serviced correctly, it's highly accurate. There's so many that are not serviced correctly, and I've heard a lot of people have problems with them.
Would you work on one?
No.
There you go.
Not anymore.
There you go, indeed. There, and we've got Thomas Burnett, £4.50. Alex, do you find that movements used by Omega from the 50s to the 70s are better, easier, or nicer to work on than Rolex movements from that time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a very good question.
So you got like the, I'm just thinking now, you got like the Omega 565s, 561s of like their own movement, wasn't it? Like a bronzy feel.
It's the 1500 series.
Compared to a 1500, I'd rather work on the Omega. Yes and
Really?
no. Yes, yeah. That's a difficult one. That's a difficult question. I wonder if my other watchmakers that I know are watching this. They're thinking, "What are you saying?" Yeah, I would say the Omega. I'm more towards the Omega compared to a 15 caliber. I'm here and there. Touch and go.
Can I ask my next one, Arch?
Sure, yes, please, fire away. Fire in the hole!
3185. So when it's in jump hand mode, you can go forwards and backwards as much as you like, no problem.
3185.
That's on the Explorer 2. Explorer 2 and GMTs.
What year though? Can I just ask what year the 3185?
2000s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They came out the 90s. The 90s, 3185 was 90s too.
Yeah, I know. It's there, and if you look at the movement, there's like a sapphire disc, and it's got the teeth inside for the hour wheel to be independent. Okay.
But in hacking mode, you can't go backwards. Is that right?
When you say hacking mode, do you
When
mean
you
as in
pull it out fully?
Yeah. So you mean you stop the balance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd only go forwards clockwise only, never anti-clockwise.
You can go up and down, left and right, forward, backwards. It won't. Well, as in it won't damage the movement. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
No, it won't damage the movement.
Okay.
No.
I was told by somebody you should never, like if you're setting the time on a watch, you should always go forward, never wind it backwards, especially on JLCs with complications and that there. They hate going backwards. Is that true, Alex?
JLC complications maybe, but on everyday watches, mechanical, no.
Okay.
Right.
You got to appreciate these watches go through significant tests. If there was a problem winding the watch with the anti-clockwise, then no, I don't. I've never seen that problem, never had that problem. But on watches where grand complications, where you could put it out of a sequence, then okay, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Level 999, £5. Can I put my Submariner bracelet on a ceramic Daytona? Love ya, Arch.
Can you? I've never been asked that question.
What I've found is, let me say this, is that what Rolex has done is they don't want you to change bracelets on different watches. And they've moved the bloody... I had a friend of mine, Scotty, he had a Batman and he had a 39mm Explorer 1. And he didn't want the polished center link on the Batman. So he's going to swap the bracelets over. It doesn't bloody fit where they've got the holes in the case. They've done it so that you can't just change bracelets that easily. So they don't really want you to do that. And I also would say to Scotty, I said to Scotty, just bloody leave the bracelet that it came with on it. Why is it so important?
I call it the rabbit hole, Archie. I call it the dreaded rabbit hole.
What happens is you swap it and then you sell it like that, or you lose the other one. It always ends in trouble. I can tell you this.
Yeah,
Didn't you take a modern Rolex Oyster and have the center link satined?
That's what he was thinking about doing.
Oh, okay.
I see all crazy things. Sorry, so I see all crazy things where people buy the 16013 and then go from the acrylic to the parabolic sapphire glass.
I hate that. Why would you do that? It becomes a Franken then.
And then it's then sold to them as a sapphire version off some USA shop on eBay
and they add diamonds to it as well.
And then they send it to Rolex and it has the 3-part policy, which means that if Rolex find 3 parts on it that are not genuine, they class the whole watch as fake.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, look, this is the rabbit hole for me. If you cannot afford the watch that you want, don't go and buy a cheaper or worse watch and start blinging it out, because you're going down the wrong route. Just don't do it. I keep telling this to people. Don't do it.
Keep it original. Keep it original, man. This is the way to do things. We got Ron the Shrink is in the comments there. Ron, is that Ron? I think I saw Ron the Shrink. Thank you, Ron. And we've also got Smokin' Fragrances, $2. Great interview. Hope this is the future. This is the future. Yeah, well, look, I've said to Alex, let's do a show. Let's see how it goes. If he gets some benefit, he's got to get some benefit. Alex himself, perpetual time. And I tell you honestly, my sponsors, I've got some great sponsors. I've got David SW in America. I've got Pride and Pinion in the UK and Ireland. Pride and Pinion, they do sales. And perpetual time, he's a repair. He does repairs, and he's also got, look, we'll let things go at the moment, but he's got some other things he's wanting to do in the future. Here we go. Zaimai Wang, $3. The Tudor MT5402 in-house, Black Bay 58. Thoughts on that?
How long
it's probably a bit young to have seen one. They're probably a bit too new. They've only the 58 series. That's the 39mm. They've only just really. Have you seen those in-house Tudor movements?
No, I've never had one in terms of for servicing. No, and once again, I've never really acquired for parts, and I wouldn't work on one at this moment in time.
Terry N, $5. Great show. What's your opinion on the Amiga Master Coaxial 8800 movement in the 42mm Seamaster?
Brilliant movement, fantastic.
Yeah.
I got to ask you something. You mentioned something about coaxial movement. You're right. The whole idea of the coaxial movement was it didn't need lubrication. It needed much less lubrication than a normal movement.
Yeah, because George Daniels, sorry, go on. Go
Yeah,
on.
but why did they then put you could put lubricant? I don't understand this shit.
Because George Daniels, I believe he put it in a Patek Philippe, he put it in a Rolex, and he put it in Omega. Patek Philippe threw it back at him.
Yeah.
Rolex threw it back at him, and Omega was like, "Yeah, we like what you're doing." And I think he actually gave them the patent. He didn't get any money out of it. I don't know how true that is.
I see.
We have to ask Roger Smith that. And then they prototyped it. There was issues. I think the frequency was up and down. They wanted to oil it, then they didn't want to oil it, and now they do oil it, or grease it, should I say, or oil or grease. Now it's at its optimum, I think, and the 8800 movement is a fascinating movement.
That's the 8800. That's the older movement, isn't it? They don't use that now, do they?
No, I'm sure they still use that now, don't they?
Maybe they do. Maybe they do.
think it is,
But I got to tell you, in all honesty, the coaxial movement is a fantastic invention. It really is
It's impeccable.
Amazing invention.
How did he think of that? I don't know. You really got to sit down and look at it, how it works. It's incredible. Incredible.
Have you worked on many reversos, Alex?
Yeah.
You mentioned you had a JLC stint. What do you think of the reversos?
Well, when I went to Jaeger culture,
they're a bitch to work on. You don't see many fake reversos because the case is so damn complicated. It's just not worth faking.
It's weird. It is weird the way it works, but they're great watches. The steel they use is beautiful. There's a field of steel that I don't know what steel it is. I don't think it's 914L steel, but it's just a beautiful and it's nice to polish. It's like butter. I've worked on a few reversos, yeah, but I don't get a huge amount in. I must admit, I don't really get a huge amount in.
What's the most common watch comes into you?
Rolex.
Even more than
Submariner.
Tag?
Tag's really common. The Tag 2000, the old classic Tag Heuer 2000. They're common.
Yes.
But,
or the Formula Ones, the 80s Formula Ones.
The plastic bezel.
Yes.
The Kyrium.
I had a Kyrium.
The Kyrium. Yeah, that was so cool, man.
The Hublot as well.
You get Hublots in.
Yeah, I get Hublot. And I give extended warranties on them as well.
Just 1 minute there. Dr. Rolex PhD, $5. 8800 is no jump hour. 8900 is jump hour feature. The hour hand jumps by the hour when setting the time. There we go. He's just telling us there. Tell me this. Can you characterize when you see a customer come in? Do you say to yourself, okay, he's a Rolex man. He's going to be a this man. Can you tell the Rolex people? Can you tell the Tag Heuer people? Can you pick your geezers?
Yeah, I can. Especially when I ask a Panerai owner, can you give me the model number and serial number of your watch? And a lot of them say, no, I don't know who you are, even though they've emailed me for a service. I just need it to know which caliber it is to see if I can work on it. But I know Rolex Submariner owners, they're particular. Omega Seamaster owners are very particular. But when I get somebody in my office, I know whether it's going to be more difficult for me to work on that watch or it's going to be more difficult for me to work with them. Does that make sense?
Who are the bigger pain in the asses normally by watches?
Do I have to answer that?
Yes.
I have to answer that.
Yeah.
I think vintage Omega owners are challenging.
Very finicky.
I think they're challenging. But
Challenging.
some people ask me, what's the most hardest watch to service? Sometimes I say it's not always the watch that's hard to service, it's the owner. Because the owner has been on forums, been asking people that they don't know who they are, they haven't got any qualifications or any experience, and then I get the full-blown effect of that. Because they said, I've been on this forum, he's told me this, I've been on that, you know, so you have to kind of defuse it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly right there. Tell me this: with paddock, do you get with Lange and paddock owners? Can you tell them, are they a class above, or they just like normal folk?
Are they entitled?
Yes.
I must admit, I probably spent half an hour discussing with Patek and Lange owners. I don't know. There's something different about them, and I don't mean that disrespectful way to other owners, but they just have something. They have a different way of thinking. I don't know what it is. They just, do you know what I mean?
What's the biggest Rolex horror story you can give us?
Oh, well, I can give you a horror story of a Patek Philippe.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I used to, when I was working for a particular company, they had somebody, I can't believe I'm going to say this. They had somebody called, watchmaker called Sandy, and he was working in a particular area of the UK, and a Patek Philippe came in, and what happened was he apparently serviced it and gave it back. Well, it turns out that what he did is that he snapped the dial feet by accident and super glued the dial to the movement. So they used to call him Super Glue Sandy for years on end.
Can't live that down.
But isn't glue one of the ultimate sins in watchmaking? You
Of
never
course. Yeah, you should never use a damn glue anywhere. You know, I mean, Loctite is supposed to be used when you're putting in screws in the Breitling Colt. You know, you've got the Breitling Colt bezel and it's got the screws around. You're supposed to Loctite them in, and also Loctite links in with screws, etc. But super glue, no, come on. Super glue, no.
And what sort of Patek was this?
I don't know. I didn't get that far into the conversation, but
Yeah.
I did have a story once where I was working for a company, and they were having a refit in their shop, and then after the refit, we went out for some food, and I was in a Chinese restaurant, and one of these particular people asked me, "What do you think of Breitling watches?" Considering I was out of work, as in I wasn't working. And I said, I think they're rubbish. Anyway, that person was the football agent for a very, very famous footballer who bought over 25 Breitlings for his testimonial because he wanted Rolexes. My boss says, now he wants to give them back to us, and he wants a full refund and an apology because you told them they're rubbish.
But you weren't working for him, but
I was working for the company, but I wasn't at working hours. It was after hours. So he said to me,
shit. So what happened then?
Did a Ratner's?
No, it wasn't Ratner's. No. Well, he ended up persuading them not to give them back, and luckily I wasn't in any trouble. But it was my first job. It taught me never judge a book by its cover. He was so right. He said, Alex, one thing you should never do in life is judge a book by its cover, and not in this business, because the amount of people that used to come into this particular shop and they looked like they didn't have a penny on them, and they would just buy a watch like a Patek Philippe, 30, 40, 50 grand. And you would never have thought it. It was crazy. Just
very quickly there, next super chat. Anthony Wells, $5. What are your thoughts on the 1953 Omega RAF 2777-1? How's the service on them? Okay, so anything that's 1953, you're going to be talking big numbers for servicing. And I mean servicing properly without reducing the value of the watch.
So something like that, I don't even know what caliber that is, but that's going to be at least 600, 700, 800 pounds minus the VAT, and God knows what else to service it correctly. If that person is aware of the price that it will cost approximately and the turnaround time it will take, and knowing that the watch is not going to be that reliable and it's definitely not going to be water sealed, then that's fine.
And I'll just bring one of these up just so we know what the hell it is. This is like it's like Omega's answer to the Mark 10. Okay, so it's one of these arrows, sort of the RAF kind of military watches. That's what it kind of is here. So very
Oh,
collectible. I'll get the
so
movement. Here's the
ah,
movement.
okay.
There's a movement there on it. There. This is on the thin arrow. That's the movement on it there. So it's a manual wind. It's kind of Omega's answer to the Mark 10.
I've worked on many of those, sorry, and they are very reliable. They are very reliable. I will say that, but it's still, even though it's
They're
manual,
vintage. 1953.
yeah, it's
Yes, 1953. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still going to be expensive to service, in my opinion.
Z Wang, $3. What college trains watchmakers? How do you qualify?
Okay, so now it's the British School of Watchmaking, the BSOW, which is really like the WASTEP course. I did the WASTEP course, which is short for Watches of Switzerland Training Education Program, which I did early 2000. Only 7 applicants in the UK could get on it. Every 2 years, only 50 to 60 people worldwide. We were lucky enough to be paid to get on it as well. Now you have to pay like 15, 20 grand, quite a lot of money every year, I think. I think it's every year. And the one in Switzerland is like $35,000 or something.
Wow.
Right? Once you do that, then you almost have and you pass, you almost have a passport around the world. And I literally mean that, because I didn't believe it. So I sent I sent my CV out to a load of countries. I ended up working in Malta at the early age. Yeah, and I didn't know anybody. I went there in my early 20s to sort out a workshop that was losing, which was Time International, owned by Daniel Reggiano, who, sorry, I think about him, I get quite emotional because he's no longer with us, and he really helped me out. He took a chance on me. And I do miss him a lot. I wish I got to know him better. What happened was we managed to get the company back into a profit, and then they decided to get rid of their luxury brands. And then I came back to the UK, but I was there for around 2.5 years, and I really enjoyed it.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, I do miss him.
Thomas Bardet, £4.50. You mentioned Panerai. What do you think of the Panerai P9000 caliber? Easy to work on, a decent movement. I think that's their in-house movement, isn't it? The P9000.
P9000, yeah, it's their automatic movement, isn't it? I think it's a pretty good movement. I've only ever seen a handful of them. Once again, restrictions of parts.
Yes.
So there's only so far I can go with them. I've validated many cases with P9000.
Just out of interest, it's a 28.8 movement. It's diameter 37.8 mil diameter. Gee, that's massive. That's a monster. It's a monster. And it's you find this movement in the 3-day. It's a 3-day movement power reserve. It's a automatic watch, automatic movement. And they use it in submersibles. They use it in a whole range of things.
Yeah, they are good movements, but once again, restrictions of parts, and they're not cheap to service as well from Panerai.
Just very quickly, I just want to add a very quick service story, if I could there. Good friend of mine, Marky bought a Berthier 5513 Submariner, no date. Plastic Submariner, no date, 1967. And he was getting into watches, didn't know a lot, so he thought, the best thing I can do is get this serviced by Rolex. And he said to them, he had a original springy bracelet on it. He said, you know what, the bracelet's a bit shitty. what can you do? They said, oh, we can sell you a new one, sir. And by the way, sir, we would probably recommend a new dial and new hands.
Oh, yep. Go on. Sorry. Go on.
And what happened is he got a new bracelet. They kept the old bracelet. The bracelet is worth thousands of dollars. The dial and hands, they put the new super loom. He said, I remember I said to him, you have just killed this vintage watch, because they wouldn't give you the parts back.
No. I mean,
Have
look,
you heard of these stories before? What do you think of that?
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Because he didn't know where to take it, so he thought, oh, I'll send it to Rolex. Of course, as you do. It's like having a Mercedes-Benz. Say you've got a Mercedes-Benz Gullwing. Mercedes-Benz is very good. If you've got a brand new C-Class or an E-Class, take it to the dealer when it's, I understand. But when you got a 1950s, a vintage,
Beautiful.
they don't know nothing. They know very little about it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you can
Sorry.
kill it. Absolutely killed the value. Not to mention the originality. Everyone just goes, oh my God.
The problem is, though, you try and tell that to somebody that has, why would they have knowledge of this? They just want their watch repairing. So there's somebody such as myself that's not affiliated or associated with Rolex telling them not to take it to Rolex because they're going to devalue it. They're going to say, well, you're just saying that for you to get the work. But genuinely, this is a big problem because Rolex will not give the old parts back. And I believe
sometimes you need to sympathetically restore a watch. What that means is you want to keep the dial original. You want to keep the hands original when you can. You want to try and, you may not be up to spec, meaning it's not going to be waterproof like it was, but you shouldn't be taking this bloody vintage thing anywhere near water. For God's, you know what I mean? Whereas Rolex will try and bring, I know another story, another guy, he had a vintage Sea Dweller, plastic Sea Dweller.
yeah.
They replaced the dial, they replaced the hands and the case.
So basically,
And they charged him a fortune to change it as well. They charged a fortune. And when it's a new case, I don't know if you know this, the serial number is completely different. They use a different serial number for case replacements.
So they don't change. They don't actually have the same serial number. They don't.
Of course
redo
not.
The no. Well, I do know that they like on their vintage stuff, they charge over £1,000 for the estimate, whether you go ahead or not. This is a problem because they don't give the old parts back, and I believe now, I think you have to pay a percentage to get your old parts back. Something
Yes,
ridiculous.
correct. Ridiculous. What brands would you say take it back to the manufacturer? Like on a Patek, would you recommend someone go? I mean, whether they bring it to you or another independent, but let's just say for Patek, would you recommend Patek goes to yourself, or would you say Patek send it back to Patek? What brands would you say send it back?
FP Joanne, Christopher Claret, Lang & Son, Modern.
Yep.
So Modern. These are all modern that I'm saying. What else?
Patek? What about Patek? You
Yeah. No,
Send
I
Patek.
wouldn't do Patek. No. What else? Breitling in-house movements has to go back to Breitling because then no one can get those parts, as far as I know, in the UK. What else? What else is there?
But Tudor in-house, same story.
Well, you know what? I mean, I've never worked on a Tudor movement, but they look pretty basic. I don't no disrespect to the movement, but they don't look like something that's going to ping out at me or something that I'm going to be like, oh, I'm not sure about that. But once again, restrictions of parts. I think it's best to send it back to Tudor or to an accredited independent Rolex Tudor watchmaker. I think that's the best thing. But you have to. This is the thing where people, when they polish their watches and service their watches, they've really got to do their homework. You know, on who they're taking it to. They've got to see what's their experience. Like if you go on my Instagram page, Perpetual Time Ltd, that's Perpetual Time Ltd, there's over 2,300 examples of work on there. If you go on my Trustpilot, there's like 800 plus reviews, I think. I've got like 116 Google reviews, and I've got like over 100 reviews on the Guild of Master Craftsmen as well. But you just have to feel comfortable with that watchmaker as well. And you should be able to ask them questions. And if you don't get the feel, don't take it to them, you know. But then again, there's questions and there's questions, you know. Some people go a bit crazy with questions. Some people go a bit overboard. I mean, I had a gentleman that sent me like 10, 15 pages of a chart of how his Rolex was throughout the years he had it. I mean, yeah, I'll never forget his name either. And his watch was only gaining 2 seconds a day. And it was a vintage GMT Master Plexi. That's where I totally respect the customer, and I appreciate him coming to me. But that's where I think things go a bit too much.
Maybe you should get a quartz watch.
Yeah, or maybe you should get a quartz watch, or maybe you should look into doing something else because you don't enjoy the watch. You're not enjoying wearing it. You're too busy.
It's like having a Ferrari and you're complaining, oh, look, I can recognize the cylinder didn't quite meet this. You think, shit, just enjoy the bloody thing. Wear it. Love it. You know what? Enjoy life, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, because I had one customer and I was having a bit of a bad day and he rang me. He says, I was wondering if you could help me out. And I was like, what's that? My crown on my Rolex, the coronet, the actual logo doesn't line up when I screw it in.
Oh, God.
And I said to him, no, this is a joke. I know you're ringing me as a joke. He goes, what do you mean, sir? I'm like, this is a joke. He's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, please tell me you've not rang me up to line up.
They want the prongs of the crown to point upwards.
Yeah, no, so it's upright. You know what I mean? They wanted it upright, which, by the way, guys, on my Submariner...
What? It's not upright.
No, it's not. Of course not. No, but who cares? You know what? Honestly, it's impossible to get this upright. It's not like a. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. Okay, can I say that to you?
I know.
My God, it's just ridiculous. People get the wrong idea on this shit, and yeah.
Quick question. These watches should never be in a pocket with a mobile phone. Is that right?
No. That's no.
Not like the magnets will screw up the mainspring or anything like that.
No. It takes a lot. Like, you know, it takes a lot for. Well, it doesn't take a huge amount, but there may be a bit of demagnetation, magnetism.
Magnetization.
Okay, I'm gonna get these super chats. We've got some super chats here. Just excuse me 1 minute there. We've got a super chat here. Let's jump straight into this here. Watch this space, $3. Ranked by robustness. 3285, 3187, 3186, 3185. What's the most robust?
3285. That's the newest one. So I think they're still having a bit of issues with the rotor on that because of the ball bearings. I don't know how true that is. Then it has to be these are being the best, but they're all the 3186 is
similar. They're all very similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the 3186 isn't that the one that the GMT now that they use for? That's the GMT 3186, isn't it? That they use in like the ceramic GMT Master 2.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the ceramic. Yeah. So that came in just before they changed because there is
they got rid of that wiggle in the 3185.
And they put in the 3186. Well, there's a problem with the 3186. There's a little spring. So when you pull out the crown, there's a little, and then you change the hour hand independently. Yeah, there's a little spring, and it snaps on its weakest point. I've had a lot of those come in, and Rolex upgraded it, or they changed the thickness, and that's the biggest problem on the 3186.
Thomas Burdett, £4.50. Alex, how do you source the parts for a vintage Rolex? Is it mainly through other watchmakers, eBay, or directly from Rolex?
It's through. It's all legitimately legally done through watchmakers not in the UK. So I'm not getting anyone in trouble in the UK. So it's not through Rolex accredited watchmakers in the UK. It's through other means, other sources, which is not eBay or direct from Rolex.
And we've got bezels in steel. Bezels of steel, $2. Difficult to service vintage 60s GP Gerard Perregay Seahawk. I hate Gerard Perregay, by the way.
Yeah, it's the dreaded. They got stung by the Medusa Ferrari car association. You know, as soon as a brand goes with Ferrari or any,
Touch of death. It's the touch of death going with Ferrari.
The Medusa. Yeah, I'm telling you. Vintage 60s GP Seahawk. Well, if he's going to buy one, don't buy one. That's all I'm going to say. Just don't buy one. Don't do it. Don't.
So back to the magnet thing. Just don't put it near a microwave or something. Washing machine.
Well, I hope you don't put your watches near. I hope you don't put your watches near microwave or washing machine.
Just sit on top, maybe sort of on the kitchen counter whilst you're
Well, your Patek Philippe grand complication on top of your washing machine.
I'm uber paranoid about stuff like that. I keep them away from most things electrical. Like I'd keep it far away from my laptop even.
Just tell me this, Alex. What do I do, Alex? Can I ask you something, okay?
Go on, talk
what
to
do
me.
I do if something's happened? Say water's got into the watch. What should you do?
Okay,
take it to the watchmaker ASAP.
Yeah, because oxidization, I think it takes less than an hour or something ridiculous. So none of this rice works, or none of this. That stuff doesn't work, because once the temperature is different inside the watch than the outside, and there's moisture involved, you're kind of in a problem. So you need to take it somewhere as soon as possible where they can dry it out, and then. Well, I've actually.
They need to open the bloody thing up. They need to be able to open the bloody thing up. Okay.
Yeah. You need to get it opened almost immediately, because there's no way. There's no kind of way of going about it. You just need to get it opened by somebody who knows what to do.
$5. Arch, I bought a T serial number 1996 14270.
Nice.
That's the 36mm Explorer one that had both a service dial and hands, and frankly, I love it. Hasn't lost half a second since Monday. All good. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. So what? It's got a service dial and hands. So what?
So what?
I suppose the only way he would know is because it would be a tritium. If it was original, it would have been tritium, because they changed about 1999. They went to luminova, then super luminova. So what? So what? Who cares? I don't think that's...
You know your watches, don't you, Archie? You know your years and your...
a little. Look, I'm not an... There's watchmakers always know. I don't know. I can't... You know what I mean? I can't tell you anything about fixing. That's why I had a stock... I had a whole stack of tools. And you know what? I actually gave them to Vintage Watch Co. because I'm never going to use them. It's like giving me a spanner set and getting me to fix your Ferrari. You know what? You want somebody who knows.
Yeah. No, I understand. But you're very knowledgeable, and that's I respect that, because in this business you learn every day.
Exactly.
You learn every day. I learn from watch enthusiasts, Rolex enthusiasts. They tell me something, I'm like, oh really? I didn't know that, and hopefully I teach them something. And the Mondani books are fantastic as well. They've got some good stuff in there.
I've got the Mondani for the Patek. I got the 3 Patek. Jesus Christ, that was expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Mondani, they don't really have much, because they're Italian. English is not their language. There's not much text. It's more pictures and reference library.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they make
It's
the pictures huge, don't they?
yeah, I love them. I'm very happy I got them, but I wouldn't necessarily. They're expensive, you know, and they got the Rolex. Oh my God, the Rolex ones. I just my first love is Patek. So I've got the Patek set. I don't even have the Patek steel set because I don't have any steel Pateks. So I thought, look, just stick to the ones I got. LC $2. This guy has knowledge that Marco thinks he has. Well, he's a watchmaker, for God's sake. I mean,
No, I don't want to start saying
and there's
anything
no
bad.
Google. Look at this. No keyboards were used in this clip.
No,
No,
my hands are here.
no. Malik Diamond, $20. What watches do you enjoy servicing? This is actually an excellent question. What watches do you enjoy servicing, and what impresses you as a watchmaker?
Has to be the dial. Oh, I mean, obviously, dial is important, but some of the finishes on dials, is incredible. Some of the finishes on certain Rolex dials is dreadful, but then you have like the meteorite dials. There's just something really special about them. Also, Patek Philippe dials. Some of them are beautiful. Like A. sundials. Just looking at them and just appreciating them. The hand finish as well, stuff like that. The way hands are finished.
What brand do you like working on? If someone brings, what brand is your? I suppose Rolex is your brand.
Rolex,
Rolex.
yeah. I'm very fortunate and very lucky to be able to work on a brand that I'm not affiliated with and still be able to use original parts, give the original Rolex parts back as well, and give extended warranties.
NATO, $15. Hey Arch, I've been working, so it's been hard to super chat lately, but I like your new crew. Dis, the Aussie guy, Timely, producer Mark. Well, he is like a pair of warts. He's growing in me. Yes. Thank you so much. And we've got very, very honored today to have Alex from. Just mention your name there.
Alex Foti from Perpetual Time.
Perpetual Time. There we go.
Perpetual
Perpetual
Time, yeah.
Time. There you go. He's a watchmaker in Liverpool. Liverpool is that's where the Beatles were from.
It's Liverpool, all right, mate.
Liverpool. Sounds
All
of
right,
pounds.
All right, lads,
I've got one slight claim to fame. My father
Yes.
repaired Liam Gallagher's Rolex watch. He basically
Oh,
smashed it. Because it had engraving on the back. It was given to him by Patsy Kensit.
Oh,
So-
good old Patsy Kenzie, eh?
Who's
Oh,
Patsy
Yeah.
Kensit? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Beautiful.
His
woman.
first wife. She's an actress.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
I think she was in one of the Lethal Weapon movies.
Yeah, she was. You remember us years ago?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it says something like, "To my darling Liam, love Patsy."
Oh,
My
wow.
dad didn't know who he was, but
Oh,
Watches of
really?
Switzerland from Bond Street gave it to him.
Oh, wow.
I gotta tell you, with what brand are you really disappointed the most with?
What brand have I been disappointed the most with?
I gotta tell you, for me, I will tell you honestly. I'm gonna say it because I'm really disappointed with Cartier.
Yeah,
The reason I
Cartier
say that is
disappointed,
I absolutely love the design of Cartier. I think Cartier you buy for the design. Look, Cartier had questionably the first wristwatch in the world because they invented that for that pilot guy, the Brazilian pilot Santos, Dumont Santos. And you gotta take this. They have such beautiful design. I love the screws on the Santos. I love that. In the 70s when they relaunched the Santos, I had a Cartier Roadster. I thought that was just beautifully designed.
Beautiful.
But the movements are just a letdown. Just a complete. It's like having a beautiful Ferrari, then you open the hood. Oh, it's got a GM box in it. Oh, okay. Close that up again. You think, shit.
I will say the best Cartier ever to be produced was the Cartier Roadster and the Cartier Roadster Chrono. Absolutely phenomenally well produced.
But Cartier fucked it up because at the end of the production run of the Roadster, they brought out the Roadster C.
Oh,
Which
that
is their
awful
cheap
thing with that
and
bezel.
nasty. They bloody cheapened it because they wanted to suck the last bit of toothpaste out of the tube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just leave it. Don't do that. I'm so angry at Cartier. Believe you me, I like. Oh, I'll tell you a Cartier story. Here's a Cartier story. Flip mode 45, $5. Great stream. Loving learning from watchmakers. You betcha. Anyhow, I bought my wife a Cartier Banois. That's the bathtub watch. You know the Banois? I'll bring a picture up. I will bring a picture
Like an
bathtub
oblong
watch.
shaped ladies' watch.
I got a picture.
You'll see it
on
once
there.
you recognize it when you see it.
So I'm right to
just
say
get it-
that the Cartier movements are made by Ebel, apparently. Is that true?
Yeah, because Ebel is owned by Richemont. Yes, you know, but let me just pull this up. So these are my wife's two best watches. I'm just going to bring these up now. Share screen. Here we go. Okay, so there we go. It's not quite in focus, but who cares? Okay, so
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
that's
right.
the
Of course.
Banois.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, this Banois. By the way, I bought this on eBay. Right? It
Yeah.
came from Brazil. Okay. Nothing racist here. I'm just telling you the story.
Okay.
Anyhow, I sent it. First thing I do as soon as I bought anything is I take it to my independent watchmaker and I said, "Can you please change the battery immediately?" I always get a new battery put in for a quartz.
Okay.
He opened it up and said, "Paul, we got problems here."
Oh, talk to me. Go on.
Okay, so what had happened is it's got gold, because this is an 18K case, okay?
Yeah.
One of the screws had broken,
Oh.
the gold
okay.
screws. He said, "Paul, I don't have this gold screw."
Yeah.
He said, "Now that's not the problem, Paul." He said, "Some idiot has glued it back in."
Oh, the dreaded glue again.
Yeah, the glue.
The dreaded glue.
Now, what I did was I actually took that watch to Cartier. I don't know if you noticed this, but I actually bought a new strap for it. I got my wife. She picked this strap. I would have picked a black strap, but this made it her Cartier. And I got it serviced. And what they did is they didn't even mention the screw was glued in. They just fixed it. Came back perfect.
Probably because
So
they're
that's
used
how I
to
snuck it in. Snuck it in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And look at the watch next to it. Now, this is my advice to ladies. You have one dress watch, like this is a gold Cartier, and look at what I got next to that there. That's the workhorse. That's a 69173. I don't know what you think of the 6973. I think that's the most perfect ladies' watch ever made. It's sapphire crystal. It's a Holes case. This is actually an early E serial number. I love the salmon dial with Romans. This is it. This is probably the greatest. I don't know what you think of this watch. It's got a small movement, but it's just such a workhorse. It's waterproof. You understand? Screw-in crown. Can I tell you something, Alex? Never, ever sell a watch to your family or friends. Can I give you that advice?
I could totally relate to it. I know.
Because what happened was I actually had a steel version of this with the white gold bezel. That's the 69174.
Yeah.
And I sold it to my stepmother.
Oh.
Okay? And because I knew what a pain in the ass she is, I said to her, "I'm getting it serviced for you before I give it to you." So I got it fully serviced and overhauled. On Christmas Day, I went over. It was Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And she said, "Paul, this watch isn't working well.
Oh.
It's got water in it."
Oh.
I said, "How do you mean there's water in it?" Literally, I could see fish swimming inside the case. She didn't have, listen to this, the crown wasn't screwed in properly. She took it in the saltwater spa.
Yeah. Very common. Very common.
Now, what do I do? It's over Christmas period. The watchmaker is closed. I've got 2-week period. I can't do anything with it. What should I have done?
You can't do anything. You can't do anything.
I took it to the watchmaker. This watch literally cost me $1,000 of parts because I didn't have the heart. I mean, to be honest with you, never ever sell to friends or family. I said, "You didn't have it screwed in. It's not bloody waterproof when your crown is off." She didn't know.
Do you know, whenever I get one of these in with water ingress, I always say to them, "Have you been on holiday?" And they go, "Yes." I said, "Did you change your time zones?" And they say, "Yes." "Did you screw your crown back in?" "No." And then what I do is I'll take them in a certain section in my workshop and I'll put it in the machine. If the watch passes, with the crown screwed in, that means that they left the crown out. If it fails with the crown screwed in, that means there's a problem with the seals. It's a big problem on the ladies' Rolexes, and even on the gents, 16233s, 16234s.
But I honestly, this is unfortunately that lady's watch there. They used to be £1,500 for a second-hand one. They were a good bread and butter watch. Unfortunately, they're no longer cheap anymore.
No.
And we've got Flip Mode 45. Great stream. Love learning from watchmakers. We definitely love learning from watchmakers. I got to tell you, never sell to family or friends. That was a mistake. Oh, my God. It was a disaster. An absolute disaster. Sovron. Hello, Sovron. I love Sovron. He's a good friend of mine. Guys, we've got 15 minutes to go. Last chance to get your super chat questions ready. Get your questions ready.
The fountain
and
of
ask
knowledge.
the watchmaker. When could you come back again, Alex? When did you want to come back again? Because it's been an honor. And ABC, I would like you to come too. I'd like to have a co-host.
That'd be brilliant.
You're the best co-host for this gentleman here. He just works. The yin and the yang is perfect.
Definitely.
Did you finish asking your question, ABC? Any other questions for him?
One final question. You know, the Lemania 5100 chronograph that's used in some old Speedmasters, I think Mark 4.5. You aware of that one?
I have worked on them in the past, yeah.
So that the minute counter is the main sweeping, is one of the main sweeping hands, and it doesn't tick over. It's like a gradual sweep.
Right.
And I was wondering why that movement has never really taken off. Whereas I think it's more of a continuous measurement of time. I was wondering, has that ever been seen anywhere else in your experience?
In terms of, did you say the minute or the second hand? Sorry.
The second hand sweeps, but when it crosses into a minute, it doesn't sort of tick over the way it would on your pretty much any other chronograph. And it's counted. I'll have to show it to you at some point.
Yeah.
But I think Archie's got one there.
How old is the movement?
Yeah, actually, that's in my
70s.
safe, I'm afraid. 70s. ABC, yeah. Actually, I got to tell you this. Do you hate it when people with chronographs, you can't get it to reset properly? People, that's a real bugbear of chronographs, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
What is that? Why is that so? Tell me, why is that so?
What, as in they don't know how to stop flyback?
No. Why doesn't it? No, when you reset it, it doesn't go perfectly. It's always a little bit
back
off.
to 12.
Yeah, but it doesn't go back to 12 properly. Why?
You'll find that on like Speedmaster Reduce. And
sometimes it's a module, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the dreaded module that, in my opinion, it's the module that causes that problem. You don't really see it on 7750s that much. I don't really see it on a huge amount, but it's usually modules. But I did have a customer that rang me who had is it Farah? Farer? It's like a British brand, isn't it? You ever heard of it? Newish brand? If you Google them, you'll see it. It's Farah.
Okay.
I'm sure it's Farer. And he rang me up and he only had the watch for, I think, a couple of months. And he says to me, I've got a problem with the watch. And I says, well, it's under warranty. You can take it back to them. He goes, no, I want you to work on it. I was like, why? He says, because when I start the chrono, when it gets to 58, 59 seconds, I notice that the minute hand changes before it hits 60.
Yeah.
Oh, they're a British brand. Farah is a British brand. What are they? Just an independent shitter, really, aren't they?
So
they're only $200. Like
no. We're talking in the thousands here.
They're garbage, really. Why would you buy that sort of crap?
Well, I don't know why you'd be bothered about if your minute goes from 58 to 59. That must means that I don't understand that
They are
logic.
retro. They are
Most chronos
retro.
do that, from what I've seen. It's when
I'll
it's
just bring up-
gearing up to crossing at the 60 point, it kind of engages and then
Well,
ticks over.
I mean, it's funny you say that. I don't know. You know, on Padex, right? I got the annual calendar. Here's some Farah here. They're just nothing. They're just a very retro, trendy sort of bullshit brand. The thing is, on the annual calendar, it doesn't change exactly at midnight. It can change within a couple hours of midnight. You understand?
Yeah, well, Rolex have a tolerance, don't they?
I mean, it doesn't. It's not like a bloody court. People say, "Oh, it doesn't." I said, "Hang on a minute. This is a mechanical thing. It's got to get ready. It doesn't just happen instantly." Flip mode, $45, $10. Have 2003 SEL Holes Case Polar Explorer 2 solid end link holes case. That's the sweet spot. Is it too old for swimming, or does it all depend on service intervals and pressure testing?
No, it's not too old for swimming. What's really important that he must have his seals checked from 6 to 12 months, maybe 12 months pushing it. Take it to somebody that's good in terms of a watchmaker. Ask him to check the watch using I'm looking over here because I've got my tooling over here. Pressure test, vacuum test, condensation test. Try and see if you can do it to 100 meters, 200 meters. If you can do that and they passes, then it's safe. But he needs to check it every 6 to 12 months if he's using it for swimming or deep sea diving.
Flip mode, great stream. Love learning from watchmakers. We've got that one there. I think we did that one before. We've got this one here. We did the most important pressure test. Even on sea dwellers pressure test. People think pressure test. And the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen is I worked at a jeweler's store. Someone bought this watch, which was just a shit brand. But they said, "Oh, I paid so much for it. Surely it's waterproof." And I said, "You got to be joking. Patek aren't really waterproof, and they're thousands more.
Yeah.
The amount of money you pay for something has no bearing on its waterproof abilities." Deacon, $10. Great show, Arch and Co. Pure class. Cheers, you betcha. And we've got VDB Dog, VDBDG, Hong Kong 78. How expensive is an El Primero to service versus a modern Speedy? Well, an El Primero is an automatic, so it's going to be it's sort of the next level up for servicing, I'd say, an automatic chrono compared to a manual wind chrono, Alex?
So El Primero would be 600 to 800. A modern Speedy,
This is pounds, by the way, Great British pounds.
Yeah. So you're looking around the 600 to 800 for an El Primero with a service, probably with a valet, depending on if it can be valeted. Modern Speedy, I think Omega, say if you decide to take it to Omega, non-precious metals starts from 650 sterling, I think.
And what do you charge to service a Speedy?
I charge around, I think it's 4.7. I think non-inclusive price is approximately 475, inclusive of VAT with a 24-month warranty, approximately.
And here we go, Super Triz, $20, eyeing the venerable Invicta Reserve Venum Lone Plated Yellow Gold in the coveted 92mm frame. Should I trade in the Patek Calatrava or the Daytona? I think this is just a bit of a joke there. Invicta Reserve. What the hell is that, ABC?
Invicta.
Don't ask me.
What do you think of Invicta, by the way?
What do I think of Invicta?
Yes.
Oh, come on. Look, I mean...
What do you do when someone brings a piece of shit like that in? They bring in Invicta in and say, "This is a really good watch. My girlfriend got this for me. My wife got this for me for my wedding anniversary 7 years ago." What do you say?
I try and be as diplomatic as possible. But what is frustrating is when people book in their Rolex and they're wearing a fake one. And I say, "Excuse me, sir, madam, you do know that watch you're wearing is fake. How could you tell?" They either say, "Yeah, I do know," or they get embarrassed. Or my favorite is a guy booked in, he wanted to book in a Hublot with me. And the Hublot he's wearing said, "Can I have a look at it?" So I looked at it and I said, "You do know this Hublot's fake?" He goes, "Oh, it doesn't matter, mate. I paid 15-20 grand using PayPal. I'll get my money back." No, he knew it was fake.
the worst. It must be heartbreaking when someone's mortified that they bought fake. thinking
Yes,
they
I've
bought
had
a real one.
I've had situations where the verification reports that I've done have caused problems for the person who's bought the watch. But I will say this, and it's not me being arrogant or obnoxious. Every single verification condition report I've done, they've got all their money back. Every single one I've done. And then what's interesting is the companies never ring me up or never challenge me. They pay out. They've paid out, and they never, ever. They get really aggressive with the owners, but they always pay out. They've never come back to me.
Thomas Burdett, £1.79. Great show, Alex Luxury. Yes, yes.
Actually.
It's been a great show. I got to tell you, you know, with the watches themselves, there, I must say the worst story I know is with these fakes is that I had actually a dealer friend. I'm not going to name him or shame him. We're going to keep him anonymous to protect the guilty. He bought it from another dealer. It was a 1655 Steve McQueen Submariner, completely aftermarket. It was original Rolex movement, so they'd pinched the movement out of a Rolex date from the 70s, added a 24-hour hand crudely, and it was completely manufactured case, dial was... And it's only when you really... The vintage world is so nasty. In some ways, that's why I like my Pateks. See, my Pateks are not super desirable Pateks. The Pateks I like, but you wouldn't fake an annual calendar because it's so complicated to do, and it's not worth... You would fake a Nautilus. You wouldn't fake it a girl size annual calendar. You wouldn't fake a world time because it's
Too difficult.
Too difficult. It's not worth the bang per buck. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean you see a lot of these fake Paul Newman Daytonas where the top bridge has been changed and dials have been changed, and it goes into an auction house. Does that auction house know? I'm not going to name names, but they may know. But their terms and conditions, if you have 60 years of your life to read them, you realize that you're not covered either way. They just want the commission. Tell me if I'm wrong to say that. A lot of them just say, oh, well, if it comes back, it comes back. Not all of them. There's some real good ones.
Yeah. Dennis K, £2.80. Alexandros, nice to see a Greek representing.
Haristo, Bolli. Nice.
Beautiful to see that. I'm going to end this show in 3 minutes, and then I'm going to have a bit of a toilet break, and then I'll be starting another show for just the usual buffoons that I normally have. You can come onto that too, ABC, if you like.
Thank you.
But Alex, it's been an honor to have you on the show. I'd love to do another show. If you want to do another show, you tell me what frequency you want. Man, it's been fun.
Thank you.
Amazing. Fantastic.
So just very quickly there, Perpetual Time, you're in Liverpool. Tell us where you are. Tell us about you. How did I get in touch with you? Tell us.
So you can go on my Instagram, which is Perpetual Time Ltd. So that's Perpetual Time Ltd. Also my YouTube channel as well, which is Perpetual Time Ltd. Sorry, my Instagram is Perpetual_Time_Ltd. That's Perpetual_Time_Ltd. And also obviously www.perpetual-time.com. You can give me a call. You can email me, discuss any services, refurbs, bezel recutting on fluted Rolexes is something I also do as well. Dial restorations, etc. You know, there's many things that we do here.
That's absolutely fantastic. It's great to have you on. It's been a fantastic show. I wanted a heavy hitter today, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Perpetual Time. And you were also on the Paul Thorpe show a while ago, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been on
Paul Thorpe.
Yeah, I've been on Paul Thorpe quite a few times. You know, he's a great guy in the watch industry. He does a lot. You know, he's trying to get the lost and stolen register back.
I think he's fighting a losing battle with the lost and stolen. I don't know how to politely tell Paul. I think he's flogging a dead horse.
Well, listen, it's one of these things that if nobody does, then it's nobody's going to do it. And he now is showing the crime that's happening in London. I don't wear nothing in London. If I could just wear my underpants in London, I would
Do you
just
think
do
it's that
that.
bad in London?
Yeah,
That's my London
where
watch.
Yeah, Archie,
Is it
it's
that bad?
terrible. It's terrible. Honestly, this is coming from somebody who lives in Liverpool. No disrespect to Scousers. Scousers are brilliant people, very warm,
Yeah.
very welcoming. But what annoys me is that everyone says Scousers are this and that. No, 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 no. Go to London. Trust me. You don't want to, a man, a woman late at night, it's not great. Honestly, it's not good.
Is that dangerous?
Yes, listen, it is dangerous. You can't walk in London wearing an expensive watch. I know so many people that have lost their watches, that have been in situations. One of my friends had a knife pulled out on him with his AP. He had his solid gold AP on a bracelet. Yeah, I think he's watching now. He's my business partner now. No,
See,
honestly,
it's not worth dying for. You got to realize this. It's not worth dying for, is it? I mean, to have your health, you can keep the stupid AP or the Patek or the Rolex, you know. Guys, I'm going to wrap this up now. I want to thank Alex. Perpetual Time. Check him out. Great guy. Alex, you come on again. You let me know when you want to come on again. I'm going to advertise it in advance. This is a great show. Guys, give me 5 minutes and I'll be back on with the other guys. Once again, Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
will
you.
see you next time, man. This
Nicola,
was
thank you very
just
much.
very quickly.
Thanks,
We got the
Alex.
Greek. I was going to put that comment up there. That was a great comment there. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Okay.